thousand rand each, while the two minors were released into the care of their parents. The incident is alleged to have happened in October last year. A video that went viral on social media shows how the victim was beaten with objects including a hockey stick. And finally, oil prices have continued their volatility after U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright posted on social media that the U.S. Navy had successfully escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz. Prices fell as much as 17% after his post, but it was quickly deleted with confirmation later from the White House that the Navy had not escorted a tanker through the key energy route controlled by Iran. Showan Bryce Peace reports.
Wright's deleted post said the U.S. Navy escorted a tanker through the strait to ensure oil remained flowing to global markets, which was inaccurate. Iran's Revolutionary Guard also rejected Wright's post, saying any movement of the U.S. fleet and its allies would be stopped by their missiles and drones. Earlier, the chair of the U.S. Joint Chiefs said they were starting to look at ways to potentially escort ships through the strait, while U.S. intelligence said it was seeing Iran take steps to deploy mines in the waters of the key shipping lane.
Recapping the top story, the Electoral Commission says inasmuch as it's supporting the gain in the multi-party democracy, it's worried at the hostile length of the ballot papers, with hundreds of parties registering for the 2026 local government elections. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, soccer action. Mamelodi Sundowns return to the top of the Betway Premiership after beating Orbit College. And we'll give you tennis action as we head to Indian Wells. Arena Sabalenka has beaten Naomi Osaka. All the details and more at around 6:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Our top stories in Durban with protesting blocking off the M19 between Reservoir Hills and Dunkeld Road. Protesters were burning tyres and debris across that section of the M19. There is a heavy backlog if you're going from the N2 or from Reservoir Hills trying to get to Claremont, New Germany and Pinetown. There is a bit of disruption, Durban-bound carriageway as well. Might be a good idea to look for alternatives. The N2 south into Spaghetti Junction, N3 out through Paradise Valley. If you're on your way to Pinetown, use the highways, avoid the M19. At this stage, we're also looking at a fatal crash just north of Pitt Retief. That looks like likely to cause some problems to sometime. That'll be the Pitt Retief Ermelo section, but just north of Pitt Retief and bottom of Midrand on the M1 South. A crash at Buccleuch interchange. So coming through from Allendale, likely to have some queues forming through there this morning. Don't forget, no traffic lights in Pretoria, Transaronia at Fomhagen. That's bound to be very slow again on that run through the Dustboard Tunnel. And driving into Cape Town, a breakdown on the N2 around the airport runway. Heavy queues already from the Khayelitsha side. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
7 minutes after 6. Today is Wednesday, the 11th of March, 2026. Welcome to it, the Morning Brief on SAFM on this Wednesday. It's great to be in your company. Among some of what we will do over the next 3 hours, we'll unpack a world on edge as tensions between Iran and the United States and Israel ripple across the Gulf, with countries like Qatar suddenly finding themselves on the front line of a widening geopolitical crisis. Here at home, a deeply complex legal and ethical battle is unfolding in Johannesburg, where doctors may have to turn to the courts to authorize life-saving treatment for a teenage patient whose family refuses a blood transfusion on religious grounds. And we'll also look at the latest economic data, what it tells us about the country's fragile economic recovery, why insurance fraud cases can sometimes turn deadly, and the legal fight over the air we breathe as pollution continues to hang over Gauteng. What am I talking about specifically? So coming up in the next 3 hours. At about 10 to 7 this morning, we'll talk to this issue, a deeply sensitive case that is unfolding in Johannesburg that sits at the intersection of law, medicine, and religion. Doctors at Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital in Johannesburg may need to approach the High Court to authorize a life-saving procedure for a 15-year-old boy whose family refuses a blood transfusion on religious grounds. The teenager suffers from a rare disorder affecting both his liver and kidneys, and a transplant may be his only chance of survival, but the operation cannot proceed without blood transfusions that his family's faith prohibits. The case raises profound constitutional questions, as you can imagine, about parental authority, religious freedom, and the legal principle that the best interests of the child must come first in any matter involving a child. It also highlights how the country's courts sometimes have to step in when medical decisions involving minors become life or death matters. So at 10 to 7, we'll be speaking to Karabo Oza, who is the director of the Center for Child Law at the University of Pretoria, about what the law says when a child's right to life and healthcare collides with deeply held religious beliefs. It's a really difficult one. You don't know how to navigate this one, and the Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, has been at the forefront of intervening in this, and in fact has said that the hospital may have to approach the courts, because how do you deal with a situation like this? The child needs the surgery. Their family is willing to accept the liver transplant, but they don't want a blood transfusion on religious grounds. And the minister has been pointing to the inconsistency of that and saying, how do you accept the organ transplant but not the blood transfusion on religious grounds? What will the law say? Can this transfusion and this operation be done despite the family's objections on religious grounds? And what terrain are we on when we are dealing with that kind of a situation? Karabo Oza is the one who will answer all of those difficult philosophical, ethical, and legal questions. That's my guest at 10 to 7 this morning. At 10 past 7, at the top of the second hour, we're breaking down the latest economic numbers after new data from Stats SA showed the economy grew by 1.1% for the entirety of 2025. It's believe it or not, 1.1% is the fastest pace in 3 years. But it is, as you can imagine, still well below what is needed to tackle our country's unemployment and poverty. While sectors like agriculture, finance, and tourism helped push growth slightly higher, key productive industries such as manufacturing, electricity, and construction continued to contract. Investment is also declining, with gross fixed capital formation falling by more than 2%, signaling ongoing caution among businesses. Economists say the figures suggest the economy is stabilizing, but still operating far below its potential, weighed down by energy shortages, logistics bottlenecks, and weak industrial expansion. I know that the story from government is that we've seen the back of some of the problems I mentioned, the energy shortages, logistics bottlenecks. But the figures for 2025 will have factored in the tail end of some of those crises, certainly the energy crisis as well as the logistics issues that we faced. So what do these numbers really say about the direction that the country's economy is taking and whether meaningful recovery is within reach? At 10 past 7, I'll be in conversation with economist Duma Qubule, who will give us analysis about those numbers. And lastly, let me flag this story. At 10 past 8, we look at the hazy, dusty skies that many residents have noticed across Johannesburg in recent days, and why experts say it's more than just weather. In fact, it wasn't just hazy, dusty skies. There was also a certain odor about it. There was a smell that hung about, certainly in the last 2 days. Air pollution drifting from the Highvelds coal-fired power stations, mines, and heavy industry is combining with seasonal weather conditions to trap smog close to the ground. The issue, we're told, sits at the heart of the landmark Deadly Air court case, where civil society groups successfully challenged government for failing to enforce air quality regulations. The country's courts have since ruled that poor air quality can violate the constitutional right to an environment that is not harmful to health. We'll talk to Ntombi Maphosa at 8:10. Ntombi Maphosa is an attorney at the Center for Environmental Rights about what the law now requires government to do and why the pollution problem in Gauteng remains far from resolved. So that's where we're going over the next 3 hours. As for the morning brief team, to your stations, please, for the takeoff. And Musa is good to go. She's got your news updates at the top and at the bottom of every hour for the next 3 hours. Zaikan has updates from the world of sport. Rob Byrne is keeping an eye on traffic flows on your route this morning and will ensure that you are the first to know of any snarl-ups on your route this morning. Melissa Buta has got the morning brief in brief, and Ndauling Lechela will keep you updated on the economy, business and the markets, as well as Sipho Mantula coming through with the Africa update at about 20 to 7 this morning. Let's have the conversation. The calls, please put those through to 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032, or you can send me a WhatsApp voice note on 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. The first hour of the morning brief on this Wednesday starts now.
In life's most challenging moments of loss, compassion can be your greatest comfort. You shouldn't have to face the financial burden of losing a loved one by yourself. Rest assured, Clientele's funeral plans pay out cash within 24 hours. You can cover up to 13 family members on one plan, ensuring all your loved ones are taken care of, and 3 children are covered at no additional cost. With Clientele, you are not just buying a plan, you are also buying peace of mind. When the time comes, you will need to make important calls with your 200 Rand airtime you will receive when you claim. Plans offer double accidental death cover as well as a transport, grocery and unveiling benefit. Apply today, it's easy. There are no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
What's with the camouflage, Dorf?
I'm going hunting. Just me, nature, and my most underrated off-roader, a rental car.
Hunting? You could fit that little car in your backpack, Dorf.
I sit in the driver's seat, baggage at the back, chairs on the roof. The kudu is going to get in and strap its own seatbelt, Savvy.
Could do with more legroom, Dorf. Go hunt for a new 4x4 at We Buy Cars. They got great deals.
Oh, shot, Savvy.
Don't be doof, be savvy. We Buy Cars, geared for that big trip, geared for you.
Catch the season premiere of Color Your Plate this Sunday evening at 7 as 4 hungry home cooks step into the kitchen to reimagine beloved family favorites in bold and unexpected ways. With the return of a Sterling from a previous season judging their every move, only one will earn the chance to progress and cook alongside them in the next round. Who will impress and take the first step forward? Find out on Color Your Plate, Sundays at 7 p.m, repeat Saturdays at 4:30, only on SABC2.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, let's get it started this morning with Melissa Buta, who's got the morning brief in brief. Good morning to you, Melissa. Let's start with news to do with the preparations for elections 2026. The Electoral Commission of South Africa, the IEC, has penciled in a voter registration weekend.
Yes, good morning, Thulasizwe. The IEC will hold a voter registration weekend over the weekend of the 20th and 21st of June 2026 to help citizens register or update their details ahead of the 2026 municipal elections. IEC Chief Electoral Officer Simon Mabolo emphasized that voters must register at their ordinary residence and can vote only at their designated station once the election date is announced by Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa. Registrations will remain open until midnight on the day of the date that is proclaimed. Preparations are ongoing. The Municipal Demarcation Board has finalized 95% of ward boundaries, with remaining areas in KwaZulu-Natal being finalized. The IEC continues to update voting districts, expand outreach and facilitate online and in-person registration, with over 260,000 new voters registered since November of 2025.
Yeah, hopefully we can get momentum on that and get more people on the voters' roll. It is critical. I'm interested to see how this pans out, this private members bill that has been introduced by the EFF's Umphile Mautwe. And I say that because it seems to me this is one of those that has gone further than many other private members' bills have done in the past, and it seems to be gaining momentum and support. Talk to me about the support that it has now gained from the Public Servants Association.
So the Public Service Association supports the proposed insourcing bill in Parliament, which would require government departments and state entities to directly employ workers for essential services like security, cleaning, IT, administration, and some health services, with outsourcing allowed only under formal exemptions. The PSA argues that outsourcing has undermined labor rights, worsened working conditions, and fueled corruption and inflated tenders, particularly in municipalities and state-owned enterprises. The union said insourcing could improve service delivery, strengthen government capacity, reduce procurement-related corruption, and provide job security and benefits for workers. The PSA argues political parties and the government urges political parties and the government to fast-track the bill's adoption. So this will be interesting to see once it is implemented how the rollout takes shape.
And lastly, Melissa, it's boots on the ground. The president made this announcement during his State of the Nation address that the SANDF will be assisting the SAPS with law enforcement activities, and we're starting to see that taking shape, at least in Gauteng.
Yes, so President Cyril Ramaphosa has confirmed the deployment of 550 soldiers to Gauteng to assist the police in tracking crime, particularly illegal mining, under an operation called Prosper. The deployment, costing over 80 million rand, will run from the 30th of January to the 30th of April 2026. Soldiers are said to also have been deployed to the Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and Free State for similar crime-fighting operations. So this is one to watch closely and see if any difference is seen and is being made effective in these provinces.
All right, Melissa, thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief.
Who says talking never solves anything? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
On the weather front, there are two advisories from the Weather Service. One has to do with extremely high and uncomfortable conditions that are expected over the Namakwa District Municipality in the Northern Cape, as well as in places in the Western Cape. Then there's an advisory for heat wave conditions with persistently high temperatures, and that is expected over the western parts of Namakwa District Municipality in the Northern Cape, southwest and northern parts of the Western Cape, as well as Kokama Local Municipality in the Eastern Cape until Friday, but persisting until Saturday in the following areas in the Eastern Cape: Sarah Bartman, Amatole District Municipality, King Sabata Dalindyebo Local Municipality, as well as the Nelson Mandela Bay and Buffalo City metros in the Eastern Cape. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria, Johannesburg and Vereeniging will be partly cloudy, becoming fine with a minimum of 12 in Pretoria and a maximum of 26. Johannesburg starting at 12 and ending at 24. Vereeniging 11 to 25. Mbombela will be partly cloudy with isolated afternoon showers 15 to 21. Polokwane partly cloudy 13 to 22. Mahikeng, Vryburg, Bloemfontein, Kimberley and Uppington will be fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon, with Mahikeng starting at a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 28. Vryburg 12 to 29. Bloemfontein 13 to 28. Kimberley 14 to 31 and Uppington 20 to 34. Cape Town will be fine, becoming partly cloudy from the evening 28 to 40. George will be partly cloudy with morning fog with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 34. Gqeberha, fine 18 to 27. Gugompo City, fine 18 to 28. Durban, 19 to 26. With morning showers and rain, otherwise partly cloudy. Richards Bay will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 27. And Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog, otherwise partly cloudy, 14 to 24.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
24 minutes after 6, the recent escalation between Iran, the United States, and Israel has placed the Gulf region at the center of a rapidly expanding geopolitical crisis. Following missile and drone attacks by Iran on Gulf states, including Qatar, Doha has moved to strengthen its defense partnerships with the United States and European allies. While Qatar insists it does not want to be drawn into the conflict, Iranian strikes on its territory and critical infrastructure have exposed the vulnerabilities of regional security arrangements. The crisis is raising fundamental questions about deterrence, the role of the United States military bases in the Gulf, and the possibility of new regional defense alliances. Let's unpack all of that with Dr. Kingsley Makubela, risk analyst and former diplomat, but also a public relations executive. Doc, good morning and thank you for your time as always. How, in your view, is this conflict? For the longest time, there was this fear of a broader regional conflict. And we're now realizing that to a certain extent. How is it reshaping the geopolitical map of the Middle East and the Gulf region?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. It's really raising serious concern about the presence of the U.S. military in their countries. Because during the attack in these countries, particularly in the GCC, the United States was nowhere to be seen. The United States focused its defense capability on Israel. And it raised serious concern within the Gulf states about the viability of U.S. bases there. We are currently seeing the withdrawal of U.S. military personnel from these bases because some of them have been seriously attacked and so on. They're left vulnerable. Not only that, Thulasizwe, the energy infrastructure has been attacked in some of those countries. So there's going to be a review and relook at what kind of deterrent would work for them. Remember, deterrent basically is a concept that in order to prevent a war, you prepare for war. Sometimes it turns into what is called a security dilemma, because as you prepare the war, you're sending a message to the other side to also prepare a war. So it's going to raise serious challenge about the viability of the long-term viability of the U.S. in the region.
And is that vulnerability highlighted perhaps by the different capabilities as far as, intercepting some of these drones and missiles that are coming from Iran? Because these countries, most of them, I suppose, depended on that deterrence factor that you talk to. And when it comes down to it, have not been able to intercept as much as Israel can, for example.
Well, the Iranians have been very surgical in attacking the radar system, in attacking the defense system that the U.S. has employed, not only in the Gulf state, even in Israel. And they've really succeeded into that because they swarm this defense system with cheap drones and later on follow that with surgical missile attack on specific target. So the defense system, it's in question now. As we are talking, Thulasizwe, the defense system in Israel has completely collapsed. The Iranians and Hezbollah are hitting their targets without any resistance. So there's going to be a huge problem in terms of relook of the defense system, reevaluation of what exists. But I think for the long-term thing, the Arab countries, particularly the GCC, are starting to look into some form of a permanent security architecture that will provide assurance to them and to the Iranian. I think integrating that within the broader security thing would work in their favor because, they can't do without Iran. Iran possesses, for instance, 17% of the global liquefied gas. Qatar is the largest producer. Can you imagine if the two of them were to team up in terms of the global market? So there are a lot of benefits in terms of cooperation moving forward. The question is Iran or Tehran willing to look into some of these cooperation agreements?
Could it also lead to a change in, attitude in certain countries? Because some of these countries that have been targeted by these Iranian missiles and drones are countries that at a certain level were quite friendly to Iran and have been feeling quite hard done by. all of that happening alongside the conversation you are saying about a realignment and possibilities for strategic defense alliances?
You know, Thulasizwe, Iran has made it quite clear that if some of these countries that the U.S. present, the U.S. U.S. military presence, if they are used to attack them, they will retaliate and they will hit hard on this country. So they have done that, precisely that. But also there has been some level of instigation that were alleged to be conducted by the Israeli intelligence. For instance, there were attempted bombing in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, in UAE by agents of Mossad, according to information coming out. And these are issues that are really raising serious question about this partnership, that the U.S. would have known about some of this operation. What did the U.S. do? But the idea has been to drag all these countries into a war against Iran.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Dr. Kingsley Makubela, risk analyst, former diplomat and public relations executive. Brings us to 6:30 and Musa is standing by with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, EFF leader Julius Malema has defended National Coloured Congress leader and MP Fadil Adams at the ad hoc committee probing national security concerns amid criticism over his handling of alleged classified information. Malema told the committee Adams did nothing wrong by reporting information he obtained anonymously to the police. The Electoral Commission has raised concern at the possible length of the ballot papers, with hundreds of parties registering for the 2026 local government elections. So far, 508 political parties have shown an interest in participating in the forthcoming polls. And the KwaZulu-Natal Agriculture Department has rolled out mass vaccinations of cattle against foot and mouth disease in the Herigwala district this week. Close to 55,000 cattle have been vaccinated in the Ugu district. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Our top story is down in Durban. You'll need to divert away from this and take alternative routes. It's the busy M19. The road is closed fully between Reservoir Hills and Dunkeld Road due to protesting that erupted early hours this morning, burning tyres across both sides of that M19, and it is a full closure. So if you want to go between the N2 and Mgeta Road Springfield or the New Germany Pinetown Claremont side, you can't use the M19 this morning. It's a no-go. It is officially closed. You'll have to go further south, use the M13 or the N2, N3 routings through Paradise Valley and Spaghetti Junction, and that is going to be an extra busy run through this morning with that extra traffic coming off the M19 and having to divert through those two highways and through those respective work zones as well. A lot more works, by the way, around Mgeta Road and the N2 interchange starting from tomorrow for about a month through till about the 15th of April. It'll affect the rams from the N2 on and off at Mgeta Road and Inanda Road, and it'll see right lane closures going on the main N2. That's on top of all the existing roadworks that are already in place there around Mgeta Road Spaghetti Junction. From tomorrow gets a little bit more intense. The N3 in Joburg queuing up through the roadworks up towards Van Buren Road. There's a bit of pressure coming down into the airport area as well. A crash and a breakdown. All of that unfolding on the R21 just before you split to the R24. So that run past OR Tambo very slow. Cape Town busy, particularly out of Cales River. Stellenbosch Arterial Road has gone next level on us from Blackheath all the way through Belhar down towards Symphony Way in that Delft area. Some very heavy traffic there. It looks like being busy on the highways this morning. N2 from Khayelitsha, N1 inbound, slow from Brackenfell down to Sable Road already. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. The battle for the top spot in the Betway Premiership continues, and Mamelodi Sundowns back on top.
Hi, good morning to us. Yeah, what can I say? Masandawana back in their favorite position, right at the top. They had victory last night, and that was over Orbit College. 2-0 the scoreline. The Brazilians breaking the deadlock early in the second half, and that was through Miguel Recinho. before Ikram Reyners sealed the win from the penalty spot. The result moves Masandawana on to 47 points, 3 clear of Orlando Pirates, with the title race really heating up. Let's go to action that's later tonight. Richards Bay FC, their co-coach Papi Zotwane says the squad is close to full strength, with only goalkeeper Salim Magula currently sidelined through injury. The Natal Ridge boys, they head to Johannesburg for this midweek premiership clash against title contenders Orlando Pirates.
The preparations went well after game at Chiefs. We only have one injury, of which is Salim, but we still kept the same squad. Obviously, we are playing against Pirates. They are number one on the log, coming as underdogs, and a lot is expected that Pirates will win the match. But for us, it's simple. We are here to compete and collect maximum points.
Let's get to some more soccer action. Arne Slot's 100th game in charge of Liverpool ended in frustration after Galatasaray claimed a 1-0 win in their Champions League last 16 first leg in Istanbul. Elsewhere, Lamine Yamal converted a dramatic 96th-minute penalty to earn Barcelona a 1-1 draw with Newcastle United, while Bayern Munich Atalanta 6-1 and Atletico Madrid beat Tottenham 5-2, and it was another high-scoring night in Europe's premier club competition. Tennis, the world number one Aryna Sabalenka powering into the Indian Wells quarterfinals with a straight sets victory over former champion Naomi Osaka 6-2, 6-4. And finally, cycling, Spain's Juan Ayuso has pulled on the leaders' yellow after stage 3 of the Paris-Nice as Ineos Grenadiers powered to victory in the Team Triumph Trial. Kevin Vaculon and Oscar Onley helped the British outfit secure a narrow 2-second advantage over Ayuso's Little Trek team in the 23.5 kilometer ride. That's your sport. We'll cycle back to the podium. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
1 of 3 for this morning. Let's start with Dowling Lechela. And Dowling, good morning. Let's start with news out of Tencent, and their AI strategy is taking shape, is it?
That's right, Tulas, and morning. Now, Tencent is making progress in its AI strategy as the company accelerates efforts to bring advanced AI tools to everyday users amid the global race among tech firms to adopt artificial intelligence. Now, its latest development, Q-Claw, is an AI system currently in internal testing that simplifies access to powerful AI assistants. It's built on OpenClaw. The tool can perform tasks on a computer through natural language commands, such as organizing files, summarizing documents, opening applications, or responding to emails. Now, previously, using OpenClaw required technical expertise, but Q-Claw offers a one-click installation, making the tech more accessible to non-technical users. Now, Q-Claw also integrates with popular messaging platforms owned by Tencent, like WeChat, allowing users to issue commands through chat. Now, markets like the move, which boosted Tencent's share price, and that filtered through to the JSE, with heavyweights Naspers and Prosus both up 7.3% and 8% respectively.
I have no idea who Weaver is. tell me about Weaver.
I knew I'd catch you.
Well, yeah, this one was always going to trip me up. Weaver's bet on fintech. Who is Weaver, and why are they betting on fintech, and how's that working out for them?
You know Weaver.
I don't.
I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you, you'll see. Now, Weaver used to be known as Home Choice, but right?
Oh, yeah, see? Okay. My mother used to buy from those people. Okay.
Yes. But the fintech division has been doing so well, and it's now the main contributor of earnings. And so the group decided to rebrand about 2-3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Now, for the year ended December 2025, the group reported 5.5 billion rand in revenue, up 23%, with trading profit up 41% to just over 1 billion rands. Now, the fintech division, which includes Pay Just Now, that BNPL app, and FinChoice lending and insurance products, now accounts for 93% of the group's trading profit and serves almost 4 million customers. The fintech ecosystem is driving growth through digital customer acquisition and cross-selling, with users holding multiple products generating exponentially higher revenue. Now, payments process grew 80% to 7.1 billion rand, and lending disbursements rose 20%, highlighting the scale and liquidity of the business. Meanwhile, the legacy retail unit remains under pressure, posting losses after a 244 million rand impairment, but is being repositioned for high-quality cash-generative operations. Now, Weaver's transformation also just underscores a clear pivot there in the business, with fintech now the group's core engine of growth and profitability.
All right, please recap for us how we did in the markets yesterday and how we are looking this morning.
So starting on Wall Street, really a lackluster showing. Even though markets are betting on a quick end to the war, stocks were flat. A very different picture back home, with markets firmly in the green, helped by a rebound in resources and a strong showing from Naspers and Prosus. That resulted in the all-share closing 2.4% higher in yesterday's session. Meanwhile, this morning, the rand continues to stage a recovery as risk returns to the table. It's trading firmer against global currency pairs at 16.22 to the dollar, 21.82 to the pound, and 18.87 to the euro. In commodities, oil has been steadily declining this week after hitting close to $120 per barrel on Sunday. Today, it's down 1%, trading just under $88 a barrel. And then lastly, in Asia, stocks also in the green. Traders, however, remain cautious amid, those developments playing out in the Gulf region.
All right, Ntauling, thank you for that. We'll touch base with you in the second hour of the show, just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
And for that, we turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. Let's start in Cairo. Everyone, I suppose, around the world, all of us are concerned about the ripple effects of the conflict in the Gulf region, especially in as far as fuel prices and energy costs are concerned. But none more than Egyptians who are fretting over these issues.
Absolutely, Thulas, refreshing morning in Jumbo Africa. Coming live to you, Thulas, from the river of Limpopo in the border of South Africa.
Look at you showing off.
Not showing off, just trying to link you up with what I am trying to say in terms of this geopolitics, that we are trying to unbundle issues of governance, growth, geopolitics in this digital age. And that's where we are engaging here today, Thulas, until tomorrow, until Thursday. But one is looking at this issue of Cairo, Thulas, in terms of the price hikes, that these price hikes affect the transportation, it affects the food, and that's where you find that the issues of the prices going up. Also, when you look at how the price hikes came during the week so quick, because why, Thulas, the $119 on this week on the oil price is because of the tankers that are still blocked at the Strait of Hormuz. And that's how you find that once Egypt is feeling it, Thulas, it will come down to West Africa, it will come down to East Africa. And that's how we should be able to arrest the current situation, because this is the impact and the influence of the U.S.-Israel war on Iran. That's why we find ourselves in these price hikes and at the same time having ripple effects to the consumers.
Let's talk about a conflict flashpoint that has gone red once again, unfortunately. Less than 4 years since there was a kind of a truce that was reached. We're talking here, of course, about the Tigray region in Ethiopia.
Tulas, this is sad because when you look at this conflict, we were the, guarantors, we were the observers, we were the host of this peace process between the government of Ethiopia and the government of TPLF in the north part, that is in Tigray, Mekelle, next to Eritrea. Now, people are moving to us. They are not waiting for what happened previously. There's many young people who are already taking buses to Addis Ababa. And this is because of the issues that have happened to us in terms of the shortage of things, the petrol going down also in that area, but also the crisis that Abiy Ahmed has been pushing with the TPLF leadership. But that shows the undermining of the peace processes that was agreed in Tshwane to us. Remember people like Uhuru Kenyatta, Bomme, Mlambo-Ngcuka, they were part of that peace process to us. And it did not hold because now we are talking of a simmering conflict in the Horn of Africa. That is in the Red Sea to us. When you look at the conflict, we have the conflict in the Gulf. Now in the continent, we are also having a serious ripple effect of this conflict coming to the Horn of Africa once more.
On this story, Sipho, I dare you to say the capital of Madagascar, its president, as well as the prime minister who's been dismissed. Say their names without tripping up.
I thought you would do that because I'm in the Limpopo River talking to your ancestors today.
Give it a shot.
See, Michael Randranirana from the capital city of Antananarivo dismisses the entire government, including the prime minister. Henry Nkalama Raojona Rivelo. This is a businessman.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
I know, because it's quite difficult. Henry Nkalama Raojona Rivelo.
It's in Antananarivo, and we're talking about Michael Randranirina, who has dismissed the government, including Prime Minister Herin Salama Rajanayerevelo.
Raojona Rivelo. So Rajaona Rivelo, a businessman, came into the office last year, October. But the Gen Z and the Gen Y, so Madagascar is not Y, it's not Z, only is Y. The Gen Z and the Gen Y in the islands are saying, but this guy was having a connection with Rajolina. Why are you putting him into office? But now look at this move by the interim president, Randranirina. He came from South Africa early this year. He went to Russia. He went to France to last. You ask yourself, because there are no reasons given to say why you dissolve the government and the prime minister, but the Generation Z and Y, they are saying even you two must go as the president. So SADC is caught up to us. We will maybe discuss it tomorrow when we're looking at the Council of Ministers about what is this all about Madagascar. A former chair of SADC abruptly have to leave the stage. Now we are seeing the issue of dissolution of the government and dismissal of the prime minister.
Lastly, Sipho, your historical archive, 11 March 1870 as well as 11 March 1982. What happened?
To us on this day, it is a public holiday in the Kingdom of Lesotho. They commemorate and remember the transitioning of Moshoeshoe, the first king of Lesotho and the chief of Bamokoteli. Transitioning at the age of 94 on this day, but being a young leader at the age of 34, Thulas, settling and creating his own clan at Botabote Mountains. This is a man, when I talk about diplomacy, Thulas, he was able to advance diplomacy and deal with the then apartheid and the then raids that were happening. So others are calling him, he was a very diplomatic person. We know, Thulas, the international airport in Lesotho is named after him. We are having this dress that we are always parading, and sometimes there's a European copyright and copyleft issues there. Finally, also on this day, I'm still on 50 years of Soweto uprising, and we cannot, Thulas, not mention these two student leaders. Khotso Seatlholo at the age of 25, Mary Luate at the age of 23 were given a long-term imprisonment under the Terrorism Act on this day. Khotso Seatlholo was given 15 years, Mary was given 10 years Thulas for being involved in the 16 June Soweto uprisings. Pity Khotso Seatlholo passed away in 2004. He was forgotten to us. He was erased in our political history, and it is important as we remember Khotso Seatlholo. Next to the border where I am, to us, not far from Botswana, that's where Khotso Seatlholo used to go in and out, recruiting the young people to advance the liberation struggle. Asante sana Thulas, as we're still leading the conversation, coming to you live from the border of Limpopo River.
Sipho, thank you for that and for highlighting that bit of history. We never really talk about the consequences after June 16, right? Including criminal prosecutions for people like Khotso Siatlulo and Mary Loate, as you've just highlighted.
In 2025, Liberty paid out 48 million rand in education cover claims to 755 families, meaning...
So many kids still went to school?
Correct.
Even when the dog ate their homework?
Yep.
What if it rained so hard that even fish needed raincoats?
School's still on.
But why?
Because there's no negotiation when it comes to protecting your child's tomorrow. Even if you become disabled or pass away, Liberty, in it with you. Liberty Group Limited, a licensed life insurer and authorized FSP and part of the Standard Bank Group. T's and C's, risks and limitations apply.
This February, love staying informed. As your day winds down and the evening begins, Primetime News moves to a new home. Weekdays at 6 p.m. The stories that matter, the context you trust, the news that connects you to South Africa and the world. Because loving what you watch also means trusting what you hear. Primetime News airs weeknights at 8 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
SAFM. Primetime all day long. SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Pretoria. First up, pretty heavy on the mighty Mopani Highway queues already from Brits Road on-ramp all the way down through the bend and into Eskia and Pathlali. No traffic lights coming out of Montana, Pretoria side, Sefakamakato at the N1, so heavy backlogging going on there again today. Blue Hills into Kyalami, very slow on the R55, all backlogged down towards the Arthur Road junction, a little bit heavier than normal. Talking of things that are heavier than normal, the Mike 1 today from Gold Tree City all the way through to about Glenhove Road in the Melrose area before you're out of that, and quite a heavy backlog approaching the airport with both a crash and a breakdown on the R21 just before you get to the R24 split. So queues backing up through Atlas and pretty heavy back towards Pomona Road. N3 North at Spraigtview looking bad as well as you come up from the Phosphorus area. Queues up towards the Heidelberg Road off-ramp. Durban, the M19, full closure between Reservoir Hills and Dunkeld Road. Top of Westville, that section of the M19 all shut this morning because of protesting that erupted early hours this morning. It will put some extra pressure on the N2 South coming down through that Umgetta Road exit. You'll avoid that and just sit going to Spaghetti Junction. It'll put extra traffic out of Pinetown on the M13 through the construction zone as you approach Paradise Valley on a divert there as well. N2 Amanzimtoti up to Prospecton, looking fairly heavy, leaving the South Coast area. And Cape Town side today, the N1 inbound from Brackenfell to Sable Road. That's already very heavy, and an unusual queue popping up on Stellenbosch Arterial. It's always very busy in that sort of Cowes River Blackheath area, but this morning it extends from Blackheath through the R300, through Belhar and down towards Symphony Way in that Delft area. Also Baden-Powell, a bit busier than normal from Mitchell's Plain through Strandfontein, through Coastal Park, slow all the way through to Musenberg. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This February, love the truth, no matter how unsettling it is. They were called accidents, a slip, a fall, a tragic mistake. But what if they weren't? Fatal fall, murder or accident investigates suspicious deaths. From balconies, staircases and cliffs. Where one question refuses to go away. Did someone push them? Through forensic science and haunting testimony, the truth is uncovered. Fatal fall, murder or accident. Tuesdays 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
The KwaZulu-Natal Department of Social Development will host the Partnership Summit taking place on the 12th and 13th of March 2026 in Durban. Hosted under the theme Driving a Skills Revolution, Emergency Job Creation and Inclusive Growth through Strategic Partnerships. The summit marks a bold shift from a welfareist dependency model towards a developmental social protection approach. The department is calling on business leaders, investors, CETAs, government entities, non-profit organizations, chambers of commerce and civil society to co-invest in human potential and community resilience. For more information on the summit, please contact the Department of Social Development on 072-105-8420 or venetia.nwamu@kzndsd.gov.za. KZN DSD, we serve with humility.
Exciting news, South Africa. SABC TV Licenses has partnered with Capitec to make paying your TV license simple, affordable, and accessible. If you are a Capitec client, sign in to the app and click on Transact. Next, select Pay Bills, then click Pay At and enter your reference number to complete your payment. It's as easy as that. You'll receive instant SMS confirmation. Now you can keep your stories alive and your screens shining bright. TV licenses, pay yours, make a difference.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
7 minutes to 7. Let's give credit to the initial reporting of Sowetan on this, in particular their podcast highlighting this story. A complex and deeply emotional legal and ethical dilemma is unfolding in Johannesburg, where doctors may have to turn to the courts to authorize life-saving treatment for a teenage patient. The Health Minister, Aaron Motsoaledi, saying Charlotte Maxeke Johannesburg Academic Hospital should approach the High Court if it wants to proceed with a liver transplant for a 15-year-old boy whose family refuses a blood transfusion on religious grounds. The teenager, who suffers from a rare metabolic disorder affecting both his liver and kidneys, has been traveling from Kwandebele to Johannesburg several times a week for dialysis, while doctors consider whether a transplant could save his life. But the boy's family, who are Jehovah's Witnesses, say their faith prohibits blood transfusions and insist that doctors previously agreed to pursue alternative methods. The case now raises profound constitutional questions about how the country balances freedom of religion and parental authority with a child's fundamental right to life and medical care also at stake. Let's try and get answers to all of those questions. Karabo Oza is Director of the Center for Child Law at the University of Pretoria. Good morning. And let's start with your broad grappling with this issue. What ethical, legal, and moral questions does it raise for you?
Good morning, Thulas. I mean, the first issue is around whether when parents refuse to consent to medical treatment or surgical operation of children, such as in this case because of religious reasons, what should be done. So the answers are all in Section 129 of the Children's Act, because these things were already, before the Children's Act was adopted, were already being seen by the courts. So Section 129.10 of the Children's Act already says that parents cannot unreasonably refuse to assist the child and consent to treatment based on religious or customary traditional beliefs, unless if they can show that there is a viable alternative. So they themselves must also engage about what that viable alternative is, if they're going to refuse. For instance, in this case, they're worried about the blood transfusion when the liver transplant is to take place. So it's already there, and it's also been done in a number of cases, Thulas, where the courts have given consent for treatment for children to proceed. And this overriding their parents' right to religious, refusal, because the court has to weigh up what's in the best interest of the child in that particular case, and particularly in cases like this where the operation is life-saving, the court will say, and I think you said this, the child's right to life and survival and their well-being will definitely override their religious beliefs. I want to point out something, which is that although the minister has said that the hospital must go to court, if you read Section 129 and Section 129 subsection 6.7, they actually empower the minister himself to actually override the parents' consent. But I think it's an issue of fear that the parents could come and sue the minister if the minister doesn't direct people to go to court. So it has happened that in most of the cases, it ends up being a high court, on application by the doctors. Sometimes even we have represented some of the children to say the court must make a decision.
So going via the route of court is done out of the abundance of caution, as opposed to you saying that the minister could simply override what the parents are saying.
Yeah, the law allows for it. If you read the sections, they allow for the superintendent of the hospital, if it's a matter of life and death, they are empowered. and the minister, if the parents unreasonably refuse, or even if the child themselves refuse. And Tulas, the other question here is, this is a 15-year-old. Has anybody engaged with him what his views are?
Yeah.
Does he want the operation with the blood transfusion? Is it at the point where, yes, the child is in a very difficult position, but, have the parents even listened to the child, or, the views are, they're just their views, and that's the beginning and the end of it. So certainly here, maybe it's best that then that application is brought to court. The parents will have to be cited as the respondents because they are refusing to give consent to this procedure.
Of course, we must point out, Karabo, that we are not at that stage yet, because we are told by the health department in Gauteng that the pediatric transplant panel is yet to deliberate on this case. But from all the scenarios, it looks like it will be headed in that direction, that eventually this child will need to go for a liver transplant, which will need to come with a blood transfusion. Let's talk about reasonableness, which is what you said, the section that you cited of the Children's Act that it talks to. What do you say to someone that says balancing the religious rights of the family, of the parents, against this procedure, which they believe goes against their beliefs? Is that necessarily acting unreasonable?
Well, I mean, the balancing, it has to happen in line with Section 36 of the Constitution, and also that Section 110. So if you're saying my religion must be upheld here, what is your alternative? What are you saying that will could still preserve the life of the child without, let's say, going to blood transfusion? And if you can't offer a viable alternative, the scale is going to tip on the side of upholding the best interests of the child. And as I said, that has been done in a lot of cases. The only challenge is that, you have to engage with the parents, and they're supposed to come with what they say alternatives are. I see that in this story, when I read it, it said something around that fact that they're saying the hospital says there were alternatives to using blood transfusion. So the hospital must explain to them that maybe those alternatives are not viable. They're not sufficient, because eventually the child will need a blood transfusion. And the minute you have explored those alternatives and said that, look, it cannot work, then the scale favors going through with the operation, knowing that then the blood transfusion is something that will take place during that operation. Yeah,
Right.
it's been done. The only worry is delays to lessen.
Yeah.
As much as there's no decision, when you delay, we had a child die of a bone cancer because the parents delayed and went for customary alternatives. And by the time the court authorized, that cancer had spread so much, and the child died. So they have to really try and counsel the families
Yeah.
to overcome these obstacles
All
for the
right.
best interests of the child. Yeah.
Karabo, thank you for laying it out so clearly, crystal clear there in the analysis and explanations. Karabo Oza, Director of the Center for Child Law, and that is at the University of Pretoria. Let's go to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, Malema defends Adams on alleged handling of classified information, and IEC concerned about possible length of ballot papers for the local government elections. Good morning. EFF leader Julius Malema has defended National Coloured Congress leader and MP Fadil Adams at the ad hoc committee probing national security concerns amid criticism over his handling of alleged classified information. Adams appeared before the committee last night following the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi implicating him in wrongdoing. Malema told the committee Adams did nothing wrong by reporting information he obtained anonymously to the police. He said that anyone who comes across wrongdoing has a duty to report, regardless of who may be implicated.
Where you are seated, you must know there is nothing wrong you have done. No one must ever try to tell you nonsense. There's nothing wrong you have done. You come across information, you go to the police. And what police do with it is none of your business. You have reported it to the authorities. That's how it works. Where should you take that information to? To the same corrupt politicians who are in cahoots with thugs, whose political parties are formed with blood money, and tell you, no, take it to parliament. Which law is that? You come across nonsense, you report it to the police. It doesn't matter who is being implicated in the nonsense. There are no holy cows here.
Meanwhile, at the Madlanga Commission, evidence leader Advocate Matthew Chaskelson suggested to the Northwest businessman Suleiman Karim that he may have been an investing partner in the Medicare 24 360 million rand SAPS contract. Karim, who returns to the Commission on the 16th of next month, was questioned about his relationship with alleged cartel member Vusimuzikat Matlala. He testified that he loaned Matlala 10 million rand after the police service awarded him the contract. Chaskelson put it to Karim that transactions between him and businessman Morgan Maumela, who's implicated in the Tembisa hospital corruption scandal, suggest they had an interest in Medicare 24.
It looks much more like you were an investing partner in this contract, and that you were an investing partner together with Mr. Maumela, and that while you were in business with Mr. Maumela in relation to a Chrome project, while you were funding an interdict that served to protect Mr. Maumela's company, you might also have been investing with Mr. Maumela in this contract. Because Mr. Maumela keeps on getting screenshots of your communications with Mr. Matlala.
The Electoral Commission says inasmuch as it's supporting the gain in the multi-party democracy, it's worried at the possible length of the ballot papers, with hundreds of parties registering for the 2026 local government elections. So far, 508 political parties have shown an interest in participating in the forthcoming polls. Speculation is rife that the number could rise as the country nears the election day. Speaking at a media briefing in Pretoria yesterday, the IEC Deputy Chief Electoral Officer Masiho Shiburi said they don't have a problem with more parties registering to vote, but are concerned that this would deter some of the voters.
We are a multi-party democracy. We do not take issue with the number of registered political parties. We do not take issue with the number of parties that ultimately contest. However, we are concerned with the length of the ballot and what it does to a voter. We know for a fact that certain voters find it difficult to identify their party of choice on a lengthy ballot or on a ballot set out in two columns. That may lead either to voters not making a mark at all or miscasting their ballot.
The KwaZulu-Natal Agriculture Department is rolling out mass vaccinations of cattle against foot and mouth disease in the Herigwala district this week. Close to 55,000 cattle have been vaccinated in the Ugu district. Agriculture Department spokesperson Usikumalo says they are targeting 170,000 communal cattle in the Herigwala district. This is what some communal farmers from High Flats had to say.
We are pleased to have finally received the vaccine. Previously, we had a problem of cattle found dead in the fields. We couldn't be assisted. We are grateful to witness the help. If the vaccine we are getting is really going to help us, then we are happy and grateful to the department. Firstly, we would like to thank the provincial government for acting swiftly in addressing the foot and mouth disease. We were badly affected as this community, but we tried other ways to prevent more loss of cattle. We were really affected because we could not sell livestock to make profit, especially in rural areas.
And finally, the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse, OUTA, has called on government to delay the increase in fuel levies set to take place on the 1st of next month. This follows new data from the Central Energy Fund, which suggests motorists may see one of the largest monthly fuel increases in the country's history due to the conflict in the Middle East. OUTA's Executive Director for the Accountability Division, Advocate Stephanie Fick.
There's a call for that 20 cents for government to think about holding that increase back slightly. The taxes and the levies make up 57% of the petrol price. Now, although that will remain stagnant and it is around, 11 Rand 85, isn't it time for government, because they have control over it, to maybe consider not increasing the levies for now, just see what is happening out there. Let's see what's happening with the war, and in that way give a little bit of relief to motorists.
Recapping the top story, EFF leader Julius Malema has defended National Coloured Congress leader and MP Fadil Adams at the ADO committee, probing national security concerns amid criticism over his handling of alleged classified information. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
With Outsurance, saving on your car insurance feels like finding money in that jacket you forgot about. 27-year-old Liam saves an awesome 640 Rand on his 2020 Ford Ranger. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get savings or cash. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
And it's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Cricket, the Proteas finally set to return home after a cancelled charter flight left them stranded. And we also bring you news from soccer. Mamelodi Sundowns moving back to the top of the Betway Premiership after beating Albert College 2-0. We'll have details of these stories and more at around 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy backlogs on the R21 approaching the airport. If you're driving in from Pretoria to Mbisa Clayville, it's a crash and a breakdown. All of that's happened before you split to the R24 right in front of the airport. Heavy queues all the way back through to Pomona Road this morning. The Mike 1 from Boysons through to about Glenhove Road, and the N1 14th Avenue round to Rivonia looking pretty heavily backed as well. Durban, the M19 remaining closed effectively between Dunkeld Road and Reservoir Hills Mountbatten Drive. Full closure both ways to the M19. It is forcing a lot of pressure either on those local alternative routes to the north through Reservoir Hills or just down the N2 into Spaghetti Junction or the M13 out of Point, out of Paradise Valley. So just a lot of traffic out of place this morning around that closure of the M19. N2, I'm on some 30 through to Prospect and it looks heavy, and the Chatsworth Higginson Highway all jammed up out towards the N2 this morning. Richwood area of Cape Town, a crash on Plattercliff Road at Tiger Valley. That'll be around the Grendel traffic circle, so that's slow. And Symphony Way and Stellenbosch Arterials all badly backed up, particularly Stellenbosch Arterial, with queues from Blackheath through the R300 and down into that Delft area. Highways are busy. Don't leave it too long before you get into them around Cape Town. And Baden-Powell slow this morning. Mitchell's playing through Strandfontein Coastal Park all the way in slowly to Muizenberg. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
11 minutes after 7. Welcome to the second hour of the Morning Brief on SAFM 104.2 107. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. It's great to be in your company. Coming up over the next half hour, we'll start with a conversation with economist Duma Qubule. We are reflecting on the GDP figures that were released by Stats SA yesterday. They included the fourth quarter GDP figures, a growth of about 0.4%, which pushed up and bumped up overall growth for 2025, taken as a whole, to 1.1%. And believe it or not, as small and as tiny as 1.1% is, it is actually the fastest the economy has grown since 2022. Clearly, there's something there to be done. Something more needs to be happening as far as economic growth is concerned, in as far as we are hoping to overcome the problems that we face, unemployment, the massive unemployment situation in the country, as well as poverty levels. Duma Qubule will weigh in on what are the levers that we are not pulling at, that perhaps we should be pulling at even more, even harder, even as economists and government in particular are starting to talk about the economy having attained that stabilization point, that it's stabilizing good, but we need more than just stability. We need to be growing. Duma Qubule on standby to have that conversation with me. And then shortly after that, we turn to this issue that has really shocked many people, the case of Rachel Kutumela. the so-called insurance-linked murders. In this case, we're told that, it came up to about 10 million rand, this murder scheme linked to claims of insurance. And additional suspects have now been arrested and added to that particular case. And the SAPS telling us that several victims from vulnerable communities were allegedly killed after life and funeral policies were taken out in their names. The case raises, of course, serious questions about how insurance fraud happens, how vulnerable people can be exploited, and what safeguards exist to prevent someone from secretly taking out policies on another person. You'll remember a few years ago, we were dealing with the case of Rosemary Nomiandlovu, which really had all of us with our jaws dropped when we were just shocked by what was happening. It seems this is something that happens more frequently than we realize. Sean Pillay, Deputy Convener of the Association for Savings and Investment South Africa, a Forensic Standing Committee member, will talk to me about that at about 7:20. In it all, I would love to hear from you, so do call me 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes and messages 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. Let's start the second hour of the morning brief.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This February, fall in love with friendships that feel like family. Old bonds, new beginnings, and chapters that remind us why love in all its forms matters. The story comes full circle in The Best Man, The Final Chapters, where love, loyalty, and life collide one last time. Because some stories stay with you long after the final scene. The Best Man, The Final Chapters, weeknights 7 p.m. only on S3, the beloved.
Are you currently experiencing disputes in your company? Do you want to remove a director, or is there another company using a similar name to yours? The company's tribunal are an alternative to courts, and they resolve company disputes speedily and for free. Whether you're a small or a large company, they are readily available to assist. Visit their website on companiestribunal.org.za or contact them on 012 394 1000 for more information. Companies Tribunal, resolving company disputes for free.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
16 minutes after 7, the country's economy recorded modest growth in 2025, expanding by 1.1%, according to new data released by Stats SA. While this represents an improvement from the 0.5% growth recorded in 2024, it remains below government projections and far short of the pace needed to meaningfully reduce unemployment and poverty. The growth was largely driven by finance, agriculture and trade sectors, while key productive industries such as manufacturing, electricity and construction continued to struggle. Let's speak to economist and research associate at the Social Policy Initiative, Duma Kobule, who joins me now. Good morning to you, Duma, and thank you for your time as always. Is this a case of glass half full or glass half empty? These offshoots that we keep hearing about, is this evidence of those offshoots, green shoots?
Okay, so this statistical release, first of all, I just want to say that in February last year in the budget, National Treasury said the economy would grow 1.9%. And all of us said Treasury must be smoking something, because Treasury has a long record of inaccurate, optimistic GDP forecast dating back to 2010. So they've spent 16 years having wrong GDP forecasts. The second thing is that this provides evidence that the economy is not turning the corner, but the government propagandists who are trying to gaslight us into believing that the economy is turning the corner will torture the data and show us whatever that they are green shoots. But you need a very powerful microscope to be able to see green shoots. There are no green shoots for the majority of South Africans. The third thing is that this is a decline in GDP per capita. So now what this means is that GDP per capita was lower than it was in 2007. We've had 18 years of declining average living standards. We must not make excuses for the incompetence of this government. The fourth thing I want to say is that this is in line with the average GDP for the past 17 years. So over the past 17 years, we've had GDP growth of 1.1%. Now, the government must explain to us, and National Treasury and the Reserve Bank, the annual average GDP growth for 155 emerging and developing countries over the same period was 4.4%. For 30 countries in emerging and developing Asia, it was 6.3%. Why is it impossible for South Africa alone to achieve? These countries cruise to this GDP growth rate of 4.4 and 6.3, despite the global financial crisis and despite the COVID pandemic. So no, COVID is not an excuse, and the global financial crisis is not an excuse. ESCOM is not an excuse, because 95.5% of the energy that was shed since 2007 happened since 2008, when President Ramaphosa became president. And the same with Transnet. The operational performance of Transnet started declining in 2008. So let us remember that the economy was collapsing before 2018. The economy was collapsing before COVID. Before COVID, we had a recession. 3 consecutive quarters of declining GDP. So, Thulasizwe, no matter which way you slice the data, there is no excuse for such a dismal economic performance, and people must stop listening to these nonsensical excuses that the government gives. COVID, the July floods, the July riots, the floods in KZN. These are all nonsensical excuses. Yeah.
So, what do you say, Duma, to the argument that says, fair and fine, we've had this dismal performance over the period you sketch, the 17 years, and the various intervening factors that you mention and you discount as being a big factor in the equation. But the argument then goes on to say that for the past 5 quarters, we've had some form of growth. Not impressive, not shooting the lights out, but if you're going to start going up on the curve, you have to, ebb out of it and basically start rising. And therefore, the 5 consecutive quarters of growth, as well as the economic structural reforms that government has been undertaking, are starting to dig us out bit by bit out of this crisis. Okay,
so what we're talking about in numeric terms is 0.4%, 0.3%, 0.8%, and 0.1%. These are the 5 quarters that the propagandists are going to talk about, And so that's the first one. The structural reforms, if you add up all the structural reforms against what we need to do as a country, they're a joke, Thulasizwe. I do that. I do the numbers. And the structural reforms, why, if Operation Vulindlela is such a success, why have we had 2 consecutive quarters of declining investment in the economy? If Operation Vulindlela is such a success, the most worrying part of this release is we've had 2 consecutive years of 2 consecutive years of declining investment, 2 consecutive years of declining construction activity. We've got a bloodbath in the construction sector. So Vulindlela, let me just explain to the listeners. Vulindlela is 90% of the investment that's supposed to come from Vulindlela is from one sector, which is energy. The other stuff is completely inconsequential, like spare change. So 90% is in these renewable energies, which import half of what they, GDP multiplies because of the high imports. And you can't have a growth strategy that's based on the performance of one very small sector. Electricity, gas, and water in GDP is about 3.4%, somewhere there. So how the hell can you say that we're going to grow this economy based on the growth of such a tiny sector of our economy. It makes no sense here. Yeah.
What do we need to be doing then, Duma, to build on that, minuscule as it is, and the sectors that are at play that really bumped up somewhat, were finance, real estate, and business services, agriculture, forestry and fishing, trade, catering and accommodation. And the concern that you highlight that fixed capital formation declined and the manufacturing sector also battled. So what do we need to be doing into the next quarter, into the next 2 quarters?
Sure. So now South Africans must understand, if we've had such chronically low GDP growth for so long, it means there's not enough demand or spending power in the economy. So when the government celebrates a primary budget surplus of primary budget surplus, it'll be 1.6% according to them this year. It's sucking demand out of the economy. What logic is there in you sucking demand out of an economy that is desperate? So if you look at these numbers, government spending is a negative on the GDP growth. So what logic is there in? So basically, Thulasizwe, we've got a broken economy, and we're seeing the symptoms everywhere with rising unemployment, decaying cities, collapsing infrastructure, and everything like that. So the only solution, Thulasizwe, is for the government to stimulate the economy, because the private sector can't invest in an economy, in a collapsing economy where people, there's surveys by Stats SA, and they ask them, why there's such high capacity, excess capacity in the private sector. They've got, so they ask them, why aren't you investing? They've got spare capacity of more than 20%. They ask them, why are you not investing in the economy? And they say, people don't have the money to buy the things that we can produce. So they can't invest. So if the private sector can't invest, the government must invest. The government must start investing in the economy. And this decline, Thulasizwe, coincides with austerity, which started in 2012, and it, began to bite from 2014. If you look at the data, the collapse starts in 2014. And what has happened since 2014? There's been a real per capita decline of public investment of 40%. In Johannesburg, where I live, there's been, since 2016, when Mashaba became mayor, there's been a decline in real per capita spending of 50%. And then you have someone running around, she wants to be mayor, and she says she's going to privatize everything and water. That makes no sense. Please don't listen to such stuff. Yeah.
All right, Duma, I've got to thank you for your time. The listeners love your inputs every time you come through. That's Duma Qubule, economist and research associate at the Social Policy Initiative.
With OUTsurance, I'm saving a whole 729 Rand.
Another satisfied OUTsurance client saving more money every month. 32-year-old Parushka saves 729 Rand a month on her 2020 Haval H2. And after 3 claim-free years, she gets an out bonus.
Yes, I'm ready for that out bonus.
How much money could OUTsurance save you? Get a quote now. SMS OUT to 30754. That's OUT to 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
You are listening to The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
The arrest of additional suspects linked to the alleged 10 million rand insurance murder scheme involving former police sergeant Rachel Kutumela has shocked many South Africans. According to the South African Police Service, several victims from vulnerable communities were allegedly killed after life and funeral policies were taken out in their names. The case raises serious questions about how insurance fraud happens, how vulnerable people can be exploited, and what safeguards exist to prevent someone from secretly taking out policies on another person. Let's speak to Sean Pillay, Deputy Convener of the Association for Savings and Investment South Africa Forensic Standing Committee. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. We are always shocked when we hear about this, to say that people go to the lengths of taking out life insurance, funeral cover on people in order to then murder them and then profit from that. But how widespread is this practice?
Good morning, Tula, and good morning to your audience. Thank you for inviting me to your show this morning. So, look, in the insurance sector, we face many crimes and many frauds. Insurance payouts is a significant priority for us. So there's dedicated fraud teams that continually work in the background, safeguarding both our policyholders and the insurers. Insurance fraud is widespread at the moment. Fraud risk across South Africa is topical.
So this particular form, though, because if I understand correctly, this is in the space of long-term life insurance, where you expect that, a person will die perhaps in old age, etc., and you give them a dignified send-off and their beneficiaries and their generations are taken care of. This kind of form of this fraud as a subcategory of insurance fraud, how prevalent is it?
Look, in 2024, the insurance sector reported close to 5,500 cases of fraudulent and dishonest insurance claims. Murder for money made up only 38 of those cases. And while there are quite a few matters currently under investigation, the number of murder for insurance payouts is significantly less than the number of fraudulent insurance claims investigated by the sector. I think it's also important to call out that murder for insurance frauds are well orchestrated. They are predetermined, which does require the fraudster to take a lot of time and effort to orchestrate the fraud. It's a heinous crime. If we look at some of the other fraud types specific to insurance fraud or fraudulent insurance claims, there are other ways that fraudsters use, which are much more easier to target the different products. Specific to murder for insurance, like I said, it is a very orchestrated, predefined crime that takes some time to orchestrate.
Yeah. So run through those numbers again for me, if you don't mind. Just the numbers. You're saying the broader figure, the global figure is over 5,000. And if I heard you correctly, you're saying murder for insurance claims constitutes about 38. That's the number, not a percentage.
Correct. The confirmed fraud, right? So the number that I've quoted is the number that the CISA members have reported during the 2024 cycle. We will update our stats over the next coming months, so we'll issue another media release over the next month or two. But in terms of the number of insurance frauds reported over 2024, there were 5,505. Of that, 38 cases were linked to murder for money. 2 were involving life policies, the harder risk cover to take. And the other ones involved, the 36 remaining involved funeral cover.
So when you go through these issues, and I believe you probably analyze them at length and seek out and are preemptive about interventions, where are the gaps that are enabling these kind of practices, and how can they be closed?
Tila, I think the point to mention is it is well orchestrated and organized. If you look at the policy onboarding process down to when a claim is submitted, insurers, being a heavily regulated industry, have protection for policyholders, which we adhere to. We have a lot of controls that we conduct in the background to ensure that we are verifying the information that's been submitted. If I look at the onboarding stage, we ask for a lot of information: ID numbers, abridged certificates, personal information about the life assured, confirming the relationship. It's very important that there has to be a relationship between the policyholder and the life assured, and these are questions we ask. At onboarding stage, we do conduct checks to ensure that the information submitted to us is accurate. We take out these policies in good faith. And then we also conduct checks at the end of the life cycle. And the point I wanted to raise here is, and stress on, is the fact that it is very difficult to take out a policy without having this information, without demonstrating insurable interest. And if a fraudster wants to exploit a policy, so if we look at life cover versus funeral cover, a funeral product has less underwriting because it's an easy accessible product. It's meant to assist families financially during times of bereavement. And the requirements, like I've mentioned, are still quite stringent. But if someone wants to orchestrate a crime, they need to bypass all those gates. So fabricate an ID, get information from the family, etc. So it is orchestrated. While there are checks and balances in place, there are rogue elements within society that will exploit these processes for the sake of making a quick buck.
All right. Thank you for coming through and sharing those insights with us. That's Sean Pillay, Deputy Convener of the Association for Savings and Investments South Africa, ASISA, Forensic Standing Committee. And Musa on standby with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, 3 people have been shot dead in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. A teenager was also wounded in the shooting. Suspended SAPS head of organised crime Richard Shibiri returns to the Madlanga Commission this morning, where he will face cross-examination. He has been linked to murder accused Katiso Katie Mulife and attempted murder accused Fuzimuzi Kat Matlala. And EFF leader Julius Malema has defended National Coloured Congress leader and MP Fadil Adams at the ad hoc committee probing national security concerns amid criticism over his handling of alleged classified information. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Our top story remains a disruption to Durban's M19. This is the road that links the N2 and Mgeta Road through towards Claremont, New Germany and Pinetown. The road is closed due to protesting top of Westfield, so no way through there. Full closure between Dunkeld Road and Reservoir Hills, Mountbatten Drive. The alternative routings through that area are quite slow going as well, so make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. The N2 South, the M13 out of Pinetown, those both normal alternatives are pretty busy this morning. Crossing Joburg, the N3 North jammed up as you run through towards Van Buren Road and the roadworks. Again, the construction there just pushing a big queue back into Alberton and Germiston. Also, the R21 remains heavy coming down towards the airport. Earlier crash just before you get to the R24 split, and that's why it's so heavily backed up through to Pomona Road this morning. Mike 1 under a bit of pressure up as far as Glenhove Road as well. That's worth knowing about. Cape Town traffic looking heavy on the highways. Make sure you've got some extra time to get through, particularly the M1 from Belleville, the N2 from the airport through to Mowbray Main. A lot of traffic on the M5 coming through from the round about the Kenilworth area this morning all the way through to Coburg Interchange. And there's a crash causing some delays on the Tygerberg Valley Road at De Crendel Circle, and no lights on Malabongwe Sandown at Discovery Drive in the Rivergate area. If you're heading out of Parktown out through towards Malabongwe Drive in the N7 at Dunoon, expect some additional delays. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you. So a disappointment at the T20 World Cup, and then compounded by the difficulties that the team has faced in coming back home. They are finally on their way back.
Thulas, from the crease to the check-in queue. That's how it is for the Proteas. Yes, definitely disappointment at the T20 World Cup now, compounded by a delayed home journey. But there's light at the end of this tunnel. The Proteas are back home tonight. They are expected to return this evening after travel delays left the squad stranded following their T20 World Cup exit in India. So a planned charter flight was cancelled, forcing the team to wait nearly a week before arrangements could be made for their return. The ICC has denied claims of travel bias, saying the delays were entirely outside their control. More cricket, this time action on the pitch. Matthew de Villiers struck his maiden List A century and Gideon Peters claimed his first 5-wicket haul to guide the Warriors to an 11-run win over the Dragons at St. George's Park. Asked to bat first, the Warriors posted 262 for 8, and the Dragons, led by Vian Luba, his 80, didn't help. They were bowled out for 251. The result keeps the Warriors unbeaten after 4 matches and consolidates their position at the top of the table. Soccer action. Richards Bay head into a tough midweek Betway Premiership clash, and that's against Orlando Pirates tonight. The Natal Rich Boys are coming off a confidence-boosting 1-0 win over Kaizer Chiefs, but they face a Pirate side that has been one of the most consistent teams in the league this season. Richards Bay co-coach Papi Zotwane.
Pirates competing for the league, and it's not different to us because Nati, we're also competing to get points and move out from relegation zone. So it will be difficult, but I think our boys are ready, are looking forward.
And let's go to the FIFA World Cup 2026 is set to take center stage from the 11th of June to the 19th of July. The tournament will be broadcast live on SABC3, SABC Plus and SABC radio stations. Elsewhere, we've got the head of Iran's Football Federation has cast fresh doubt over the country's participation in this year's World Cup. Mehdi Taj claims several players from Iran's women's team, including their captain, have been effectively taken hostage by foreign government interference, giving the team asylum after leaving their team hotel during the Asia Cup in Australia. Iran are scheduled to play their group matches in the United States, but the recent rising tensions have raised uncertainty about their involvement in the tournament. And finally, tennis. Organisers of the Indian Wells tournament have apologised to Venus Williams and Canada's Leila Fernandez after a clerical error denied the pair a wildcard entry into the women's doubles draw. The duo impressed as partners at last year's US Open, but their entry was not certified before the deadline. Despite the setback, both players will still feature in mixed doubles, with Williams teaming up with Christian Harrison and Fernandez partnering with Australia's John Peers. That's your sport on the morning brief. Check back, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's turn to Ndauling Lechela for the second update of the morning. And Ndauling, we'll start with broader economic news. The country's economy on a growth path, modest growth for a fifth consecutive quarter.
You described it very well there. Very modest growth that we are seeing in the economy, picking up pace at the end of 2025 with data from Stats SA showing GDP expanded 0.4% in Q4. This was supported by gains across several sectors. The finance industry was the main driver, growing 1.4% and contributing the largest share to overall growth. Activity in trade, including retail and wholesale, also improved with a 0.9% increase, while personal services posted modest growth. However, the manufacturing sector remained weak, contracting 0.6% and acting as the biggest drag on the quarterly figure. Now, that sector continues to struggle. It's noticeable in PMI data, and we've seen manufacturing facilities close down, including AMSA's long steel units. Most recently, Impact said it would be closing its Springs mill. For the full year, the economy hit a 3-year high, growing 1.1% in 2025, up from 0.5% in 2024. But this was still below the 1.4% forecast from Treasury. Looking ahead, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana expects growth of 1.6% this year, though rising global tensions and higher oil prices could weigh on the outlook.
So it's safe to say then, Ndauling, that as far as economic growth is concerned, we only wish we could do what ABSA is doing with their earnings, right? Double digit.
Double-digit growth.
Yeah, we can only wish.
It's really interesting to, just dig deeper into those numbers from ABSA, because we are seeing a lag in the local economy and ABSA looking elsewhere to grow its business. South Africa's weak growth backdrop really becoming evident in corporate strategy, with the domestic economy expanding only modestly. Many companies are being forced to look beyond the country's borders for meaningful growth. And that's exactly what ABSA did. Its push into the rest of the continent is starting to deliver solid results. The lender reported an 11% rise in annual headline earnings, while revenue also increased during the period. Now, the standout performance came from ABSA's Africa regions business, where earnings jumped over 50% to 2.5 billion rands. Overall, the bank's operations outside South Africa now account for about 31% of group revenue and earnings, underscoring the growing importance of its regional strategy. However, the bank cautioned that the global outlook remains uncertain, with, of course, geopolitical tensions and the risk of higher energy prices potentially weighing on growth and financial markets.
Lastly, Ndawling, how are the markets looking at this hour?
Starting in Asia, stocks are mixed. While a declining oil price is providing traders with some comfort, the war in the Gulf remains a concern. And then over in the US, futures are in positive territory after yesterday's choppy close, while traders are keeping a close eye on the Middle East, focus slightly shifting as we await consumer inflation figures today, coming just a week before the Fed's next meeting, which is next Wednesday. Analysts expect prices to be stable, but of course the energy price shock presents a new risk. Sticking with energy, oil ticking lower this hour and trading just under $88 a barrel. Back home, trade closed positively in yesterday's session, boosted by the Resi 10 and industrial counters, resulting in the all-share gaining over 2%. On the currency front, the rand trading firmer against global peers at 16.24 to the greenback, 21.84 to the British pound, and 18.89 to the euro.
All right, Ndawling, thank you for that. We'll touch base with you one more time just after 8:30, in which update Ndawling will give you a sense of where the markets will be going on this Wednesday.
Get Spar super savings at every store, in every aisle, every day. Like 145-gram Doritos corn chips, buy any two for 38, save 12 rand. Or 2 liters Paletta, Twist or Iron Brew, buy any two for 29, save 7 rand. Now that's super savings. Price is valid from 9 till 22 March, while stocks last, only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
This February, love staying informed. As your day winds down and the evening begins, Primetime News moves to a new home. Weekdays at 6 p.m. The stories that matter, the context you trust, the news that connects you to South Africa and the world. Because loving what you watch also means trusting what you hear. Primetime News is weeknights at 8 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's go straight to your calls. In fact, I want to start with someone who wants to remain anonymous because they want to raise a complaint about a hospital. Good morning to you. What's the issue?
Hi, Thulasizwe, how are you?
Very well, how are you?
I'm well. My sister was diagnosed with cervical cancer, stage 2B, sometime last year. So she's been traveling from Komazi to Steve Biko for monthly checkups. So they keep on postponing her treatment, giving her reasons and stuff like that. Apparently when they get there, they just sit on the benches the whole day, and then they'll be attended for a few minutes, and then they'll be sent back home. That has been happening every month. So in the past 2 occasions, we've been trying to get her file from the hospital. We've consulted a private doctor. So they recommended that because she's already has got a record of the diagnosis and stuff like that, let's rather get the file from the hospital so that they can take it from there. But they are refusing to give her the file. So we stuck. I mean, we learned yesterday that her cancer now is on stage 3. She was in hospital doing blood transfusion. So her situation is deteriorating while they are not giving her the help that she needs. On the other hand, they refuse us to get a private assistance. Not that we've got money, but we've got no other option. Her situation is getting worse and worse.
So if I understand you correctly, Anonymous, it's 2 complaints really. One, the quality of attendance at Steve Biko Academic Hospital. You're saying that they sit there on the benches the whole day and just get attended for a few minutes. And then the second is that now that the cancer is advancing, you as a family would want to take her to private care, but they are refusing access to the file.
Yeah, they are saying even if we take the fund, there's no help we're going to get. We're going to be wasting our money. So I don't understand. Must she die? Or what else? Because, I mean, it's not that we've got money. We've got no money. We want to make means. We'll try to make means to get money to get her to get her private health care, but they are refusing that as well. So we are stuck. I don't know what to do.
All right. Anonymous, please stay on the line. I know that the Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, listens to this show quite a lot. So I would hope that he or someone else in that chain of command will be listening and be able to intervene. It just sounds like a situation where someone needs to, shake the conscience of people and just say, just do the right thing. You know what the right thing is, just do it. Sive in Kabeja, good morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. How are you?
Very well, how are you?
Yeah, Thulasizwe, I won't be long, man.
Sure.
I listen to Pratuma, and I listen as an ordinary citizen. Man.
Yes.
I just want to establish what qualifies him that we must discredit the information that we are given by our own government and believe him. Man. I understand that things are not necessarily going well in the Republic and the issues of the jobs and so on. But my issue is that how he presents his information at times, he shoves it in our throats. And in the morning, Thulasizwe, we travel with our kids, and we tell our kids that there are bad names such as nonsense, hell, and all of that. So sometimes when he presents his angry opinions, it discredits even what he says,
saying.
Because he sounds very angry, and we must not listen to this nonsensical government. It's our government. What can we do? So what makes him qualified that we must listen to him and not our government?
I hear
not
you.
Not that I have an issue with his information, but his presentation of the information.
Yes. So let me try and explain my understanding of where his rage, because really it is rage, he's outraged, and where it's coming from. Firstly, let me say to you, I take your point, and I don't detract from it at all. I will say this though, a lot of people resonate with that anger. And let me challenge you and say, when you look at our state, the state of our economy, doesn't it make you angry?
Yes, but remember, he is now an information distributor.
Yes.
It's like someone coming into your house, banging your door on a door-to-door. Let's say, for example, the country has been led by the black, green, and gold. Now you get people from the blue banging your door. It's like they're protesting that come out and come and vote for us because these ones. So it does not. It kills the quality of the presentation.
Okay.
It sometimes makes us to shout and he sounds like a Prince Masele.
No, I hear you, Sive, and I take the point you're making that it may resonate with others, but it doesn't resonate with you. That's Sive in Kabeja. Thank you for making that call. Certainly. Now, my only question, guys, is the only issue I have is, honestly though, I'm no economist. I won't be able to cite the figures the way Duma does, just like that, and work it backwards in terms of the 5 quarters, the various strategies. But as an ordinary South African, honestly, how do we explain that on average our growth has been under 1% or 1% if we are lucky, 0.9, 0.8, thereabouts for the last decade or more? What explains that in a context where other countries have been able to attain 2%, 3%, 4%, having gone through everything that we went through? That I'm not able to reconcile. I hear everything being said. Structural reforms, the energy reforms, the logistics sector, this and that, investment, and I just don't understand how we've not been able to crack the code for something that other countries have been able to do, even post the pandemic. That is my question. That really is it for me. I can't reconcile that. I'll take a traffic update with Rob, and then I'll come back with more of your calls and voice notes.
As you sit in traffic reflecting on a good day, projects on track, clients happy, and they're a big one too, they trust you. with all their sensitive data that's kept in your outdated work laptop, in your car, as you sit in traffic. Don't let bad tech choices get in the way. Switch to tailored secure cloud solutions, because nothing should stop your business. Call 084 1234. Cell C.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Still very slow on the R21 approaching the airport after a crash and a breakdown in front of the airport. This is the OR Tambo International Airport in Joburg. R21 backlogging to about the R23 Benoni off-ramp. N1 this morning heavy as you work up between 14th Avenue and Rivonia Road. Some really big traffic through Bayers, Nordia, through Malabongwe, up through William Mandela. And all those approaches to the highway are heavy. Bayers, Malabongwe and William Mandela coming out of the suburbs. Big delays and big queues down to get into that very heavy N1. The N14, the Krugersdorp Highway, slow moving towards Brockfontein Interchange, and the M1 South coming out of Pretoria from Montana down towards Linwood Road, looking pretty sluggish as well. Durban, the M19, still closed between Dunkeld Road and Mountbatten Drive, Reservoir Hills, full closure due to protesting, putting a lot of extra traffic on the N2 South into Spaghetti Junction and arriving on the alternative N3 coming into Spaghetti Junction as well. Durban's M4 under pressure through Umbilo and Congela, big delays on the Southern Freeway. Also the other side of town, I'm slung at the Blue Lagoon, that side of the M4, very heavy as well. Cape Town, no traffic lights. The back of Parklands on Sandown Road, Malabongwe at Discovery Drive in Rivergate. So additional delays if you're routing that way. Marine Drive from Sunningdale through to Sunset Beach is looking heavy, and no lights on Stellenbosch Arterial and Symphony Way, causing delays along Stellenbosch Arterial from the R300, very clogged up through Delft. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Exciting news, South Africa. SABC TV Licenses has partnered with Capitec to make paying your TV license simple, affordable and accessible. If you are a Capitec client, sign in to the app and click on Transact. Next, select Pay Bills, then click Pay At and enter your reference number to complete your payment. It's as easy as that. You'll receive instant SMS confirmation. Now you can keep your stories alive and your screens shining bright. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, Nazir, I'm coming to your call in a moment, but I want to take one or two voice notes, a lot of them responding to what Duma Qubule has said, reflecting on the GDP figures for 2025.
Thulasizwe, morning. Thank you for bringing Duma Qubule. At some point in time, we need people who are going to tell us the truth, Thulasizwe, because we get lied to by these politicians who claim that they can turn things around, whereas they are not addressing the underlying issues. So Duma Qubule is 100% correct.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I think we need Duma for the finance minister. He's got my votes. Love the way he looks at things. I love the way he puts things together, makes it easy for everybody to understand, and he doesn't listen to the noise of the government and propaganda. He says it as it is, and I love that.
Bratulas, good morning. It's Ndomiso from Waterfall in KZ. And that commentary from Mr. Duma Qubule, very refreshing. It's removing the wool over our eyes that the government always tries to put. It's cutting through the nonsense. We need that very much, Bratulas. Let's keep it up. Thank you.
Hi, Tulas. I just thought I should pass my own comment. The gentleman that you're just having now, the economist, is the best guy ever. Like, I like how realistic he is, and I like the fact that he's telling us facts, things that we are already aware of, just that we do not have a person like him who can be honest about them. So greatly appreciate such people, and the country deserves such people who are realistic and are telling the citizens the truth. So thank you, Duma. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you sometimes get the feeling when he's in full flight, Dumak Qobole, that he's now trying to filter his words so that they are appropriate for radio in the morning especially, but at the same time they carry the weight and impact that he wants to communicate, the outrage that he wants to communicate? Because honestly, we are at a point where we feel placated by 1.1% growth because we are comparing it with 0.9% growth. How is that adequate? How does that suffice faced with the realities that we face? And how do we explain, how do we account? Who in the government can come forth and account and say the reason why we should be thankful we have 1.1% in 2025 is X, Y, and Z, and we are all satisfied and say, well, it was out of our hands anyway, so therefore we are thankful for 1.1%. Honestly, there's a need for that serious reckoning with it. Whether or not you align with his views 100%, we must be able to reconcile for ourselves the performance of the economy over the last decade and a half. Nazir in Durban, good morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. How are you doing?
Very well, how are you?
Fine. Thulasizwe, you see this economical system that we talk about in South Africa that's not having any growth. This system is not only that our government is having this problem. If you look at it worldwide, many other countries are experiencing the same problem we are experiencing, whereby there is no economical growth in their countries. Mainly our continent, Africa, because of the currency rates in Africa. Now, to get the system sorted out, to get the economical system sorted out, I can only, my opinion, there's only one way I can see this thing here working out. I'll ask you one question, Thulasizwe. Does man need money to survive? Will the human race survive without money? How would you answer that question?
That's such a philosophical question. I don't know. There will always be some form of a currency, won't there? Even if it's not money,
exactly,
there'll be something.
There would be, whether it's a gold coin or whether it's something will come about for men to carry on trading, right? For them to exchange goods. So now, I'll tell you that we don't need money to live. Money is only used as a means to trade. Every other thing we see around us, whatever else we see around us, it never takes money to make that. It was what God provided on earth. All our resources that we have, be it sand to make mud, be it cement, man processes it into cement to build a building. All these resources are provided to us by God. But man goes and makes a system. We are systematically doctrined to believe that success lies in materialism.
Yeah.
So even our schooling systems teach you that you must go to school and you must strive hard to achieve success for yourself, otherwise you'll be left out in this world.
Right. Nazir,
now
I've got to go, Nazir. Unfortunately, I'm at the top of the hour. Thank you for that call, though, and thank you for that contribution, Nazir, out in Durban. Let's go to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance Essential is made for older cars. Claims are paid in cash within 5 working days, and you choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185.
In our top stories, 3 people killed in Mitchell's Plain, and Shibiri returns to Matlanga Commission for cross-examination. Good morning. 3 people have been shot dead in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. A teenager was also wounded in the shooting. Western Cape Police spokesperson Andre Trout says preliminary investigations suggest that 3 masked men entered a house in Rocklands and opened fire before fleeing the scene.
The motive is suspected to be gang-related and forms part of the ongoing investigation. The anti-gang unit is investigating the case and no arrests have been made at this stage. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stop on 08600 10111 or use the MySAPS mobile application.
The son of former Zimbabwean president and his co-accused are expected to apply for bail in the Alexandra Magistrates Court today. Pelamin Mugabe and Tobias Matunodze are accused of shooting a 23-year-old employee at the Mugabe residence in Hyde Park in Johannesburg in February. They face several charges, including attempted murder, possession of a firearm and ammunition, defeating the ends of justice and theft. The case was postponed last week due to a power outage at court. Suspended SAPS head of organised crime Richard Shibiri returns to the Madlanga Commission this morning, where he will face cross-examination. He has been linked to murder accused Katiso Katie Mulife and attempted murder accused Vuzimuziket Matlala. Shibiri last week testified that Matlala loaned him 70,000 rand to fix his son's vehicle. Sibahle Mota reports.
General Shibiri has testified that the money Matlala borrowed him was paid back in 2 installments. The first was a 20,000 rands payment, while the second was worth 50,000 rands. Shibiri told the commission that he and Matlala's relationship was cordial, as he sometimes gave him general life advice. The suspended head of organized crime is one of 5 top police officials who have been accused of having close links with members of the alleged criminal cartel. Shibiri has not only been linked to Matlala, but murder-accused Katiso Katie Mulife, who is also believed to be a member of the alleged criminal cartel.
EFF leader Julius Malema has defended National Coloured Congress leader and MP Fadil Adams at the ADO committee probing national security concerns amid criticism over his handling of alleged classified information. Adams appeared before the committee last night. Malema told the committee Adams did nothing wrong by reporting information he obtained anonymously to the police. He said that anyone who comes across wrongdoing has a duty to report, regardless of who may be implicated.
Where you are seated, you must know there is nothing wrong you have done. No one must ever try to tell you nonsense. There's nothing wrong you have done. You come across information, you go to the police. And what police do with it is none of your business. You have reported it to the authorities. That's how it works. Where should you take that information to? To the same corrupt politicians who are in cahoots with thugs, whose political parties are formed with blood money, and tell you, no, take it to parliament. Which law is that? You come across nonsense, you report it to the police. It doesn't matter who is being implicated in the nonsense. There are no holy cows here.
And finally, air raid sirens have sounded across Israel after a new wave of Iranian strikes, described by Iran's state-run broadcaster as the heaviest since the fighting began. Israel says its air defenses intercepted missiles heading towards the country. Iran's Revolutionary Guards say they targeted a satellite communication center in northern Israel and several military bases. Iran's police chief has warned that anyone protesting against the establishment would be treated as the enemy. Recapping the top story, 3 people have been shot dead in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Theft, accident and 1 million rand third-party cover for your older car. Outsurance Essential has it all. Get a quote. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185.
Like a vinyl record, your car may be older, but it's got character. Now with Outsurance Essential Car Insurance, you could get savings too. 54-year-old Antoinette pays only 279 rand a month for her 2007 Daihatsu Terios, getting covered for full retail value if her car's stolen or hijacked. Get Outsurance Essential Car Insurance today for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports Headlines, soccer action. Richards Bay are heading to Johannesburg, hoping to upset the title contenders Orlando Pirates in their Betway Premiership clash tonight. And we also bring you news from the rugby field. It is the Bulls' loose forward Marco van Staden's his 100th cap for the Union when they take on the Stormers in the URC derby. We'll have all the details around 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Boarding the R21 coming into the airport at Joburg, looking a lot better. Earlier crash in there just by the R24 exit caused big delays earlier, but it is starting to ease up. The N1 north through Bayers Nordia round to Ravonia Road stays very heavy this morning, and the N3 still chock-a-block coming up from Elan's interchange into the roadworks up before Van Buren Road. Now Durban, the M19 Reservoir Hills to Dunkeld still all closed down, protesting at the top of Westville. It is causing a lot of extra traffic to sit on the N2 between Umgetta Road and Spaghetti Junction. That's going south. And on the N3 alternative route, Pinetown into Spaghetti Junction, noticeably bigger traffic and bigger delays this morning. M4 from Kongela, Umbilo area, Southern Freeway into central Durban, pretty choked as well. Cape Town, a hot weather day today. Some forecast topping 40 degrees. It's already jam-packed on the South Peninsula around the beaches, Muizenberg, the beachfront, then Muizenberg along the main road, all the way down through Cork Bay to Clovelly, even Boys Drive, backlogging to get into that traffic on the main road. It is going to be a busy day down there today. And coming out of Tableview region, there's big queues on Marine Drive out to Sunset Beach, Malabongwe Drive at Discovery Drive. Those lights are down if you're trying to get to the N7 at Dunoon. That's a hassle. And Kuberg Road under a bit of pressure as far as Montague Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 8, welcome to the third hour of the Morning Brief on this Wednesday. It's great to be in your company. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. Lots of reaction coming through on the WhatsApp line. Let me start with the number of people who are reaching out to the caller who wanted to remain anonymous, who said they are facing problems at Steve Biko Academic Hospital with a patient, a cervical cancer patient whose cancer is advancing, but the care that they are receiving, they're not satisfied with it. But as they try to move the patient to private care, they're having difficulties with being given access to the file so that they can have the transfer and the doctors understand and they pick up the care where they are supposed to. So a few people reaching out. Someone says, I would like to help the lady with cancer. We'll try and see if we can facilitate a conversation between the two of you. Then there's also Dr. Ncha. I think it's Dr. Ncha, if not Dr. Ncha, but I would say Dr. Ncha from the National Department of Health, who says, please share the details of the patient who complained about Steve Biko so we can assist. So at least, as I said, someone should be listening that says, what the right thing is, do the right thing. Certainly, it would seem there are a few people who are listening who are able to do that. Then a lot of people reacting to Duma Qubule. And before I get to that, let me take this one. This person says, this barbaric tendency to take out life insurance cover in the name of someone with the aim to murder him or her and then claim money against the policy comes along with the Western civilization as one of its values. Au contraire to that. I simply cannot accept that. It's not a Western civilization value. That's why Western civilization, African civilization, any civilization frowns on a practice such as this one. If you have to go even deeper, Roman Dutch law has the concept of die bloedige hand neemt geen erf, right? The blooded hand does not inherit. So that tells you it's not even part of their values. It's just thuggery. It's just criminality. It's just cruelty. It is what it is. It's a violation of values and norms of any society, any normal society that you can think of. Then Dennis says, why growth so low? Avarice. What is avarice? Mpo, do you know? That's a big word. Avarice, nepotism, corruption, also BE, corruption, cadre incompetence. You cannot steal your way to growth, says Dennis. Then someone else, Mtunzi, wanted to raise this issue around the child that the Minister of Health is saying that the Charlotte Maxeke Johannesburg Academic Hospital may have to go to court to try and get an order so that this child can receive the transplant that they need in the face of a family that says for religious reasons we don't want the child to, in the process of the transplant, the liver transplant, we don't want them to also get a blood transfusion. Tunzi says, What kind of religion is this which is not pro-life? And why take your child for care at a hospital when you want to dictate to qualified health workers how to treat your child? Asks Mtunzi. Then the rest of the messages that are there are about Duma Qobule and, some of the reaction that has come through. So, for instance, Anonymous says the concept, green and gold, protect ANC from outrage, is similarly is malfeasance. Hiding, stealing by comrades is propaganda in new format, says Anonymous. Then Pale from Mankwing says, I really appreciate what Duma was telling us about the economic growth in South Africa. And then someone else, Sangari in Durban, said, I agree with Sive about Duma Qobule's presentation. So sharing that concern that says it comes across too strong, too emotional, and angry, and therefore, Sive was saying that in some instances, not using appropriate language to capture the analysis, and Sangari in Durban agreeing with Sive on that particular point. Then let me read one from Felix, and that's the last one. Felix in Midrand says, we must hear more from the likes of Duma Qobule and other highly educated and perceptive black economists like Professor Malikane. Politically, parties like the EFF, MK Party, etc. share similar economic diagnosis and solutions. I hope we hear more from them too through their economic desks to balance the staple diet of liberal economists we are constantly fed with that endorse the status quo with a veneer of tweaking here and there. And that is from Felix in Midrand. Thank you for those. Keep them coming. The number to dial 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. The third hour of the morning brief starts now.
This February, fall in love with the journey. No phones, no flights, just determination, connection, and the open road. From breathtaking landscapes to unexpected challenges. Race Across the World is back. Bigger, bolder, and more emotional than ever. Because sometimes the best way to find yourself is to travel together. Race Across the World Season 4, Thursdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Investing shouldn't feel risky. It should give you security and good returns. Earn up to 7.25% interest per annum with an Absa Cash Invest Tracker for an investment of 100,000 rands or more. Your capital is guaranteed with immediate access to your funds. That's minimum risk, maximum benefit. Absa Private Banking customers can invest from just R1. Open via the Absa Banking app, a branch, a private banker, or 0860 111 515. Your story matters. Absa is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, I must confess, this next story was based on my own observations and concerns as I drove out in the last 2 days, driving out of the SABC complex and just smelling a foul odor, I would say sulfur-like odor in the air in Johannesburg, and then seeing the skies being quite gloomy. Initially, I thought perhaps it's the weather and it's cloudy, but by day 2, yesterday, I started noticing that actually it must have something to do with air quality. Residents in the city of Joburg recently experiencing gloomy skies, dusty conditions, and visible smog, raising concerns about worsening air quality in the region. These conditions, we are told, are linked to a combination of weather patterns and long-standing pollution sources, including coal-fired power stations, mining activity, traffic emissions, and industrial pollution. The issue is also tied to the landmark deadly air case in which civil society organizations successfully challenged government's failure to adequately regulate air pollution in the Highveld region. Let's speak to Ntombi Maphosa, an attorney at the Center for Environmental Rights. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Just as a starting point, did you share the observations that there was something in the air in the last 2 days in Johannesburg?
Good morning, Tulas, to you and your listeners. Yes, I also shared the observations. However, it's been happening since I'll say around 2022. I'd say every year around this time, there's just like weird smells around Johannesburg. And even this year, from around January, yeah, we've been experiencing the same sort of patterns.
Yeah. So you are immersed in this kind of work, environmental law and the likes. What's the best explanation that you pick up when you follow through on what's happening with our air?
So the experts that we work with have linked it to, as well as the city of Johannesburg, mind you, they've linked it to transboundary air pollution. So Johannesburg is quite close to an area called the Highveld Priority Area, which includes parts of Eastern Gauteng, as well as Mpumalanga, and that's a huge industrial hub in South Africa. Most of the power stations, the Eskom power stations, are located there. There's also petrochemical operations as well as the mining operations in that area. So due to weather patterns, some of the pollution has been traveling this side towards Johannesburg.
How does that sit against our standards for air quality, the environment, a clean environment, our entitlements in law, in the Constitution? What safeguards are there to ensure that whatever the industrial activity, energy activity in the Highveld in Mpumalanga and other regions, these rights and entitlements are safeguarded?
So in terms of the law, each industry has to comply with air pollution laws or standards that are called the minimum emission standards, which is sort of like a speed limit for air pollution. So each industry needs to stay within a certain level of pollution. And these standards are set there in order to protect public health, because the law recognizes that the air pollution definitely affects human health. So there's laws that standards need to adhere to, as well as the Constitution is there as a safeguard in terms of Section 24. It recognizes our right to an environment that's not harmful to our health and well-being. So there are legal safeguards for that. However, there's been an issue with industries in that area constantly seeking exemptions and getting leniencies from complying with the law. So we have an issue there that the industries do not stick to these standards, and they are constantly given leniencies to emit over the legal standards, and that definitely affects our constitutional rights. This was recognized in the Deadly Air litigation, where the High Court and the Supreme Court of Appeal recognized that air pollution that's not properly monitored affects not only our Section 24 rights, but also other constitutional rights. And this is because it's all linked to the effect that the pollution has on human health. So if you can smell it, you are definitely breathing it in, and it affects us differently, with people that spend more time outdoors getting affected more, as well as people with comorbidities. Children as well are at an increased risk of developing health issues because of the air. So the law does recognize that. However, we have an issue with non-compliance by industries in that area.
And does that make the issue around exemptions more important, and that we should be paying more attention to it? I remember last year it came up, and I think the minister at the time was Dion George. And remember the controversies around it, if not 2024, I could be mistaken. But the arguments were along the lines of we were coming out of an energy crunch, and Eskom needed its power stations to fire on all cylinders, and therefore we're applying for these exemptions. Does that make the conversation to be more pronounced, that when these conversations about exemptions are had, we as ordinary South Africans who live with the consequences should be involved?
Yes, definitely. It is linked to that. And you're correct, it was last year where about 8 power stations were given exemptions to pollute above the legal limits by the minister. And as the Center for Environmental Rights, we are currently in court over that issue. We're representing communities who live in the Highveld. So I just wanted to point out that it is bad for us in Johannesburg, but it's worse for communities that live around these power stations and industries, because some people grow up with this issue being prevalent and develop all sorts of health issues due to the air pollution. They have to contend with dealing with sicknesses, dealing with a broken health system as well. So it really brings light to the issue. And I think that the transboundary air pollution as well should really serve as a reminder as well for the fight that people in the Highveld need to contend with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It is much worse for them over there.
Yeah, look, Ntombi, I've told the story before that, as you say, that it's much worse for those who are closer. The last time I stayed over in the town of Secunda in Mpumalanga, I wanted to go for a run. I could only go, I think, 100 meters on that particular day before I decided, actually, I really cannot do this in this kind of air quality. Lastly then, Ntombi, many South Africans know that there usually is a gulf between the rights as enshrined in the Constitution and well-crafted laws and the lived realities. When it comes to air quality issues, is there a threshold beyond which, it triggers an obligation on the part of the government, on the part of agencies, cities, industries to do something about it? What's the evolving legal position there? That what triggers the responsibilities there? Is it proven harm to the health of people? In other words, that unless we can show that actually this is harming my health, we cannot trigger that obligation to do something about it.
I'd say the obligation exists as soon as there's records of the air quality being over the legal limits. So the way that we monitor air quality is through the air quality monitoring stations, and also in municipalities there's supposed to be air quality officers that constantly monitor the air quality, as well as the industries themselves. They also have their own monitors. So I would say the obligation is triggered as soon as there is records of the air quality being above the limits, of which it is there, even though it can be lax at times due to the dysfunctional air quality monitoring stations. But in terms of the limits that industry is not supposed to cross, there is definitely records of that. So I'd say the obligation is triggered immediately. Yeah. And also in the deadly air case, the court found that the Section 24 environmental right isn't immediately realizable right. So I would say, as we speak, the government does have a duty to actually be enforcing different mechanisms to control the air quality, to be monitoring it, and just ensuring that industries do comply.
All right, Ntombi, thank you for your time this morning. Ntombi Maphosa is an attorney at the Center for Environmental Rights.
This February, fall in love with the journey. No phones, no flights, just determination, connection, and the open road. From breathtaking landscapes to unexpected challenges, Race Across the World is back. Bigger, bolder, and more emotional than ever. Because sometimes the best way to find yourself is to travel together. Race Across the World Season 4, Thursdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
Oh, I'm so tired.
There's nothing on the TV.
Fanas, girls, let's take a break. We are going to a one-day.
Take a break with us. Get your One Day Cup domestic cricket 50-over game ticket at www.cricket.co.za. Wozana Will. It's family time.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take one or two voice notes and then I'll go to... In fact, let me start with a call from Simpiwe in Richards Bay because he's responding immediately to the conversation we just had with Ntombi Maphosa. Good morning to you, Simpiwe.
Good morning, brother. Good morning. Quick one. You know, as much as I appreciate the role played in Dombi and the team, my concern is there seems to be more concentrated effort on challenging the Richards Bay, where pollution is a mess. There's even cancer hospital, people are sick, but there's not anything done to challenge the private sector. Instead, we have association, a clean air association, which is funny enough controlled by the very same industries, sponsored by the very same industries. And when you complain, they will just tell you, okay, please send us a WhatsApp message, we will follow up. The like of Mondi using obnoxious gases every time you've got Costco, you know, and there's no one who's monitoring. So I would like to see Ntombi and them challenging the private sector for the very same responsibility in Richards Bay. I mean, everyone knows that Richards Bay is the most polluted place, in actually Richards Bay and Vereeniging, which are polluted by the private sector. But we'd like to see the very same legal institutions challenging the private sector.
I hear you. Simpiwe, isn't part of the emphasis on the state born out of the reality that you've got the regulatory authority? You have the authority to go after the private sector and say, this is where the limit is and you will not exceed it, and there'll be consequences if you do.
Yes, no, there is. However, I'm saying the very same energy that they've been going after government for the power stations, I would like to see them exerting the same energy against the private sector, forcing the government to act against the private sector, because the self-made regulatory system that we have here in Richards Bay, where the Clean Air Association is kind of made to be the referee and the player, which is sponsored by the private sector or by the very same polluters, does not work.
All right. Simpiwe, thank you for weighing in on that conversation. I love conversations like those where you're hearing directly from people who live with a situation that may appear to be peripheral for someone who doesn't experience airy-fairy. Here you go again with your environmental issues, blah, blah, blah. Then you hear from people who are living in contexts, who are grappling with these issues on a daily basis. I love those conversations. JCK Kaunda in Musina, good morning to you.
Thulas, are you well?
Very well. How are you? Please go ahead.
I'm well. Thulas, I would like to give you an assignment, please.
Yeah.
You must invite the BMA Commissioner Masia Pato, because what he is saying on the radio, I'm staying in Musina, I'm living in Musina. It's different to what he's saying. Are you with me?
I'm with you. Are you talking about the work that he's saying is being done to fight corruption?
Pass smuggled to the inside illicit cigarette. As I'm speaking to you, illicit cigarette is crossing now and next to the border. And even these border jumpers are crossing now. You understand? Things are happening just a throw from the Bridge border post. It's happening in the presence of BMA. I would like you to invite him. I would like to talk to him.
But remember, JCK, Mike Masia Pato and his team are responsible for the formal, proper border crossings. The fence and the line and the boundaries, the rivers and everything, your Limpopos, that's where the SANDF and other agencies are supposed to be helping them to channel people to go and greet Mike Masia Pato and his people at the border so that they explain properly why they are coming in and where they are going, how long they are staying, etc.
What was the use for those drones? What was the use for the drones?
Aha, I see. That's where those come in. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, let me get to my issue before I sign off. What we call Thulas. There is a person of interest, and his name is all over the place. Tembisa Hospital is there. Matlanga Commission is there. ADO Committee is there. SIU is there. I'm talking about Hangwani Moraudi. Is he untouchable or what?
Sure.
Is he untouchable or what?
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah, a lot of people are asking that question.
Or maybe he's out of the country. Even if he's out of the country, we have got Interpol.
Yeah.
What is happening? It seems like we are not equal. You understand? Man, remember what happens to Tembisa Hospital. Eh? With the collapse, but the budget, if something must be done, man. These favors must come to an end. Even ad hoc or whatever, they must summon him, that man.
Gotcha.
Let me rest my case for now. JCK Kaunda from Musina.
All right, JCK, thank you for that. JCK Kaunda out in Musina. Let's go to Ann Musa with the latest news.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, 3 people have been shot dead in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. A teenager was also wounded in the shooting. National Coloured Congress leader and MP Fadil Adams has accused National Police Commissioner General Fani Masemola of lying under oath during his testimony before Parliament's ad hoc committee probing criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the criminal justice system. And the South African Weather Service has issued a heat advisory for several parts of the Western Cape this week. With temperatures already soaring across the province, authorities have warned that extreme heat could impact vulnerable groups, including children, the elderly and pets. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Joburg's M1. Pretty heavy still between Bayers Nordia and Ravonia Road. A lot of traffic heading north this morning on that route. R21 approaching the airport, all clear. There was a crash and a breakdown earlier just opposite the airport. Caused amazing delays earlier, but it's all out of the way. There is a bit of a backlog on the R21 this morning. You've got the roadworks up by Olifantsfontein Road. And then after the roadworks, you've got a crash and you've got a breakdown. So some very heavy traffic passing Clayville on your way to Pretoria this morning. Route 1 looking okay through Pretoria. Gets a bit busy. Normal queues there between Old Joburg Road and just around the Olifantsfontein Road exit into the Midrand area. Durban certainly very busy this morning. It all stems really from the closure of the M19. The M19 closed between Reservoir Hills and Dunkeld Roads. There's terrific pressure around the sort of back roads there, but a lot of traffic having to divert in some traffic problems on the N2 southbound to Spaghetti Junction, N3 inbound to Pavilion. Some big traffic on those routes this morning. And of course, there are construction zones. A lot of other traffic coming out of Reservoir Hills down through Clare Estate, and that's causing some pressure as well. Also heavy on the M13 coming into the Sherwood area. So one route closure, the M19, and some really big traffic all over that part of Durban. Cape Town, the N1 into town, solid from Plattercliff Hill right through to the elevated freeway. M5 from Kenilworth up to a busy N2 for a turn into Hospital Bend. And it is already busy on the South Peninsula. Temperatures soaring in Cape Town today. Those beaches will be popular. Watch for traffic all day long through Muizenberg, St. James, Cork Bay, down around Clovelly area as well. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. Let's talk football. Richards Bay, Orlando Pirates. That is an exciting spectacle, isn't it?
Hey, yes, Thulas, it's a proper one. I think Pirates are chasing the title and Richards Bay are chasing an upset. So we're going to see tonight how this is all going to pan out. And Richards Bay just hoping that Pirates don't steal the points tonight. So looking forward to seeing this one as Richards Bay head into this clash. It's all against Orlando Pirates. Apparently they're full of confidence after their recent victory over Kaizer Chiefs. The Natal Rich Boys know they face a tough test against a Pirate side that's firmly in the title race with Mamelodi Sundowns. But here's their co-coach, Papi Zotwane.
Playing against the Paris team is a motivation on its own for our players. No one is giving us a chance, but our boys are ready to fight. Thanks, Coach.
Let's go to the Mamelodi Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso, welcoming the 3 points after his side secured victory away to Orbit College, but insisted the decision to play the fixture was a blemish on SA football. Cardoso has previously called for the match at Olympia Park to be postponed to allow Sundowns adequate preparation, and that's for Friday night's CAF Champions League quarterfinal first leg against Stardom Malian.
Like Pep Guardiola said this week, maybe the PSL thinks that we are very strong and we need these challenges to be so on the level. Well, I'm speaking obviously regarding the need that we have now to focus on ahead. And after the second goal, that was our thoughts. Manage the players, try to see who could be in danger, avoid any injuries so that we can, from now on, collect energy, bring energy, focus on Friday and prepare that match as best as possible.
Let's go to rugby. The Bulls loose forward Marco van Staden will celebrate a major career milestone when he earns his 100th cap for the Pretoria side, and that's in Saturday's United Rugby Championship derby against the Stormers at Loftus Versfeld. The 30-year-old Springbok has enjoyed an impressive journey, winning a World Cup and 3 Rugby Championship titles. Cricket, the Proteas are expected to return to South Africa tonight after travel delays left the squad stranded following their T20 World Cup exit in India. A planned charter flight was cancelled, forcing the team to wait nearly a week before arrangements could be made for their return. And finally, tennis. The Italian star Yannick Sinner has advanced to the quarterfinals at Indian Wells after a hard-fought straight sets win over Brazil's João Fonseca. Sinner claimed the match 7-6, 7-6 in a tightly contested encounter. He will look forward to taking and booking that quarterfinal clash against the American Lerner Tin. That's your sport. We'll serve it up some more at the top of the hour with John Herika. I'm Sai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. Let's talk local government and its impact on the property sector. Why is Hyprop flagging potential impact of the upcoming local government elections on the sector?
Well, the CEO, Monet Wilkins, says he will be watching the upcoming local government elections closely, particularly in Johannesburg, where control of the city could affect the operational environment for Hyprop's retail properties. The group has highlighted infrastructure challenges as a key risk, noting that municipalities outside the Western Cape often require significant investment just to keep assets functioning. For example, Hyprop says it spent millions on backup water systems at some cities, while city improvement district levies sometimes deliver limited service improvements. Now, election outcomes will influence municipal service delivery, rates, and infrastructure support, all factors that affect more operations and costs. Now, these comments come alongside the company's half-year results. The owner of Rosebank Mall says it's on track to meet the upper end of its 2026 guidance, with distributable income per share expected to grow between 10 and 12%. Vacancies are falling and trading densities rising across its South African and Eastern European malls.
Staying in the property sector, tell me about Attack and its confidence about its future.
So the owner of Mall of Africa delivered a solid first half performance underpinned by strong occupancy, rental income, and trading metrics across its portfolio. Rental income reached 1.5 billion rand and collections remained strong at 100%. Now, retail hubs maintained high occupancy, while Mall of Africa continued to attract premium international brands. Regional centers, including Garden Route and Moy River malls, benefited from refurbishments, placemaking initiatives, and improved trading densities, demonstrating resilience in both its retail and collaboration spaces. Looking ahead, Attack is accelerating growth through its development pipeline, valued at around 2 billion rands, combining residential, office, and data center projects. The key initiatives include the Gateway East offices, the Vantage Data Center, and the Fourth Ellipse Waterfall Tower, adding about 220 residential units. Its upcoming Aspire Waterfall City project has already pre-sold 145 of its 217 units, further reflecting strong demand.
Lastly, Dowling, wrap up everything you've told us this morning, please, and set the scene for us for trading on this Wednesday.
So the JSE likely to continue its upward trend following international peers. In terms of company news, investors will be waking up to numbers from property player Growth Point, poultry company Rainbow Chicken, and miner Harmony Gold. So lots to digest at the open. Meanwhile, in currency markets, the rand is steady this hour at 16.25 to the dollar, 21.85 to the pound, and 18.19 to the euro. Crude still trading below $88 a barrel as traders struggle to make sense of mixed messages about the impact of the US and Israel's war on Iran. Those mixed signals that is also weighing on stocks in Asia, with trade pretty choppy on that front. However, on Wall Street, futures are in the green, focus slightly shifting there, with traders awaiting last month's inflation print.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for that. That's Ndauling Lechela. She's kept you updated on business, economics, and the markets.
The KwaZulu-Natal Department of Social Development will host the Partnership Summit taking place on the 12th and 13th of March 2026 in Durban. Hosted under the theme Driving a Skills Revolution, Emergency Job Creation and Inclusive Growth through Strategic Partnerships. The summit marks a bold shift from a welfareist dependency model towards a developmental social protection approach. The department is calling on business leaders, investors, CETAs, government entities, non-profit organizations, chambers of commerce and civil society to co-invest in human potential and community resilience. For more information on the summit, please contact the Department of Social Development on 072-105-8420 or venetia.nwamu@kzndsd.gov.za. KZNDSD. We serve with humility.
This February, fall in love with friendships that feel like family. Old bonds, new beginnings, and chapters that remind us why love in all its forms matters. The story comes full circle in The Best Man, the final chapters, where love, loyalty, and life collide one last time. Because some stories stay with you long after the final scene. The Best Man, the final chapters, weeknights 7 p.m. only on S3 of the Love.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
All right, let's wrap it up with this story. South African travelers may soon face significantly higher flight prices. First, let me just give credit to the initial reporting of The Citizen and Hein Kaiser on this particular story. Anyway, travelers in this country may soon face significantly higher flight prices after jet fuel costs surged by up to 70% at some airports, putting pressure on airlines and the broader travel industry. The sharp increase in Jet A1 aviation fuel at major airports such as Cape Town International Airport and King Shaka International Airport is expected to push airlines to raise ticket prices or introduce fuel levies, with the impact likely to be felt mostly by budget and leisure travelers. Let's speak to Lyndon Burns, Managing Director and Partner at Plain Talking, also an aviation expert. Lyndon, good morning. Always great talking to you. What do we mean that the jet fuel costs have surged in some instances in the region of 70% week on week?
Hi, good morning, and good morning to all the listeners. So the thing to bear in mind is that the jet fuel price is not regulated in South Africa. So the fuel suppliers, and if you excuse the pun, have got the airlines over a barrel. The price of fuel can change several times while a ship, an oil tanker or a fuel tanker is en route from a refinery to South Africa. And this is exactly what we've seen in the last few days. We were told as an industry, we had a big industry summit last Thursday and Friday in Durban, and we were told by the Fuel Suppliers Association that, we don't have to worry so much about fuel supply for the next 3 weeks or month, and there are ships en route. So that was good, but what they weren't talking about was what was going to be the impact of the price. And frankly, the price is reflective of the uncertainty surrounding the politics of what's going on in the Middle East. What is America's end game, with this war, and how long is it going to last? There are no indicators that we can rely on. And so we've seen these wild swings in the price of crude. It's come down again to 87.53 this morning. That's down nearly 20, what is it, $18 or something on what it was a couple of days ago. But it's still up 25% on what it was 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
And the jet fuel price is typically around 20 to 30% higher than the price of crude oil. Now, we face an additional challenge in South Africa, and that is that since the floods and the riots in 2021, 2022, we lost most of our local jet fuel refining and production capability. There's only one refinery that currently still produces jet fuel, and that's at the moment only operating at a trickle because they've been going through major refurbishment. That's the Astron refinery here in Cape Town, and then to a lesser degree Sasol, which does coal to petroleum-based products. So we rely heavily on imported jet fuel to meet our needs. And that brings with it already a huge premium on cost. We've got one of the highest jet fuel prices in the world in South Africa because we have to get the stuff shipped here. Then it has to be transported from either Durban or Cape Town or PE to the reef, if it's going to the airports on the reef, or to other airports inland. And that comes with, truck or pipeline or train logistical costs. Then there's storage costs. And then South African Revenue Services imposes import duties, pipeline tariffs and things like that. So we end up paying, quite a lot over the odds, and as a result, it's become the biggest single cost component in your air ticket.
In fact, let's talk about that. How does that translate? That supply chain issue, those supply chain issues that you talk to, how do they translate to ticket price economics, flight price economics?
Yeah. So look, airlines understandably are going to, aren't able to shoulder all of that burden, and they're going to try and do things to mitigate the cost impact, either by spreading the load, in other words, raising ticket prices. So, and you'll be able to see that on your ticket. If an airline increases its fuel surcharge or implements a fuel surcharge on your air ticket, you will see an item marked as a YQ code. And that is for the fuel surcharge. So it's all very transparent. And the other way in which airlines can also mitigate costs, obviously, would be to try and consolidate flights, reduce the number of flights that they have, try and make sure that they're maximizing and filling their aircraft that they do have, not flying them as often. That hasn't happened yet. We're not seeing airlines moving to those levels yet because there's still plenty of demand for air travel. But if we find that the economy does take a serious turn to the left and things don't, if things get worse, then I think we'll start seeing demand for travel, and especially discretionary travel, start to fall. And then we might see airlines reducing their capacity to try and mitigate that as well.
So lastly, apologies for that. Let me just come in, if you don't mind. The factors you were talking to that have to do with refinery capacity, it triggered something in me. So does that say then that a big part of the solve for this situation would be to ramp up our refinery capacity, certainly jet fuel refinery capacity?
So, you've kind of preempted me there. I was about to get to that. I think the big problem is that we've not seen a contingency plan from government in the last 5 years. Since we knew that the refineries were going to be either shut down or having to be refurbished or weren't going to be producing fuel. We've had a number of incidents where infrastructure has failed, or there have been, bad weather at Cape Town and a ship couldn't berth and discharge fuel, or there were other issues. And we've seen over the years just how vulnerable we are to and exposed we are to that very delicate supply chain. And the disappointing thing is that there's been nothing from government proactive to say, here's a contingency plan. This is what we will do to secure the supply. And especially when you think about how intrinsic air transport is, not just for tourism and holiday makers and personal travel, but for business, for moving cargo and goods. You think about all the e-commerce, you think about pharmaceuticals, you think about fresh produce that has to be moved within temperature-controlled environments, relying on air cargo, the automotive industry with just-in-time manufacturing of components shipped to supply lines around the world. All of those things, our entire economy is dependent on air transport. So you'd think a contingency plan would have been front and central of people's minds.
Yeah, you would think, wouldn't you? Thank you for that, Lyndon Burns, Managing Director and Partner at Plane Talking, also an aviation expert. From vehicles in the skies to vehicles on the roads, Rob.
Yeah, you're welcome. Cheers.
Hey, it's Shanae Kutsia here. Watch Stories Come Alive only on SABC2 and don't miss Paradise. Starting the 23rd of February 2026, Monday to Friday at 7 p.m. Live in every beat, the pulse of SA.
Pressure keeps rising as the dire for victory intensifies. AS Otoho Di Oyo chase maximum points on home soil, but Egyptian giants Zamalek believe they are more deserving of the win. Catch the action live at 3 p.m. Then at 10 p.m., Al Mazri Sporting Club are looking to triumph in front of their passionate home fans. Meanwhile, CR Beloui's dad are confident they will celebrate long into the night. This is the doubleheader of the CAF Confederation Cup first leg quarterfinals. Witness both thrilling encounters on Saturday 14 March, live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Easing up around Hao Chang after a reasonably busy Wednesday morning. There's still quite a bit of pressure, though, on the M1 North. This is coming from Randburg up to Sunninghill. It is easing very quickly, but it is busy. The N3 still jam-packed from Elands interchange up to Van Buren Road through the roadworks. And if you're heading out of Joburg on the N17 through Ekurhuleni, there's a single-lane section for roadworks at Rollerball Road. So on your way to Brakpan and Springs, that's busy, and it tends to stay busy all day. R21 queuing into Clayville on your way to Pretoria into the roadworks, and roadworks on the N14, the Ben Schoeman Highway by the Vrede Road Bridge. So from Jean Avenue on your way to Pretoria, that all gets a bit backed up. Durban, no change. The M19 remains closed between Reservoir Hills and Dunkeld Road. Expect some localized congestion on local alternatives, as well as extra traffic coming down the N2 southbound into Spaghetti Junction, as well as the N3 inbound towards Pavilion. Both of those routes taking bigger volumes away from that M19 closure, and of course driving you into the construction. The N2 going north has a breakdown before Spaghetti Junction, so that run up from the M7 stays busy. Cape Town, a lot of pressure on the M1 from Plattekloof Hill all the way through to the city centre. Marine Drive is heavy through Pardon Island to get into the N1, and temperature set to soar today. Traffic around the South Peninsula also starting to soar. The main road going from Muizenberg through St James, Cork Bay, all the way to Clovelly's heavy. Boys Drive joining in with a heavy queue towards Main Road, and around the Muizenberg beachfront looking quite busy as well. Going to be a busy day as Cape Townians head towards those beaches to try and cool down. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let's wrap it up with your voice notes that have come through. In fact, I want to go all the way back, because what tends to happen is that as the conversation heats up, right, we tend to neglect the people that woke up very early, bright and early, and were part of the conversation from that point. And this one flows very nicely with the conversation I was having with Lyndon Burns a few minutes ago. It's about the oil price, the instability in the global energy markets.
Morning, Thulas. It's Chris in Camperton. Did you know that we have Nigeria, Libya, Angola, and Algeria as oil-producing countries in Africa? This is a great opportunity. Instead of us complaining about the war in Iran and the disruption of the oil production to the global market, why are we not strengthening and empowering our fellow African countries to supply within the African continent? This is not the time for panic. It's time for reinforcing, ensuring that Africa empowers itself.
Yeah, Chris, I hear you. And you've planted an idea in my head, and perhaps in the coming days we should get someone who understands how these oil markets work, the capacities of each of the countries that you mentioned, and whether the there's ready capacity as well as pathways for shipping of that oil capacity. But I agree with you that it may just present further opportunities for countries on the continent that do produce oil. Then there's the conversation we've been having around this child, this teenager, whose parents are opposed to the idea of a blood transfusion in the cause of a liver transplant. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. They will do the liver transplant operation when it comes down to it, but for religious reasons, they say they are opposed to blood transfusion, leading to the Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, saying that Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital should approach the courts to try and put the interests of the child first to ensure that this life-saving operation is actually undertaken. Let me take a few of voice notes along that vein.
Thulasizwe, good morning. It's Ndomso from Waterfall in KZN. I just want to quickly comment about this dilemma where the child needs to go through an operation and their parents are preventing that because of their religious views. You know, I was just thinking that as much as the law will probably side with the child, I suspect that a different someone might come with an interpretation of the biblical scripture and say, no, hang on, you're not reading it correctly. Actually, there's no problem with this operation. It can go through. So perhaps this is with the part where I say, yes, the wonderful biblical scripture will probably work in the kid's favor in this case. I think we will be fine, Thulasizwe. We will be fine.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I think we will be fine because not just biblically, but in terms of our constitution, the rights of a child are of paramount importance. The interests of a child are of paramount importance in any matter involving a child. So that's really a very high standard already. Then, of course, there were the other factors that were being listed by our guest on that story a bit earlier on. No, I just played that. Let me take this one.
Good morning, Thulas and the team. Good show as always. I believe, Thulas, that the children that need a liver transplant must be given a chance to give his view on this matter, Thulas. As for the parents, I don't think it's correct to impose their religion on children. You might find that the children has a different view on this matter. That's my take, BK. Thank you.
Yeah, BK, thank you for that. And that's part of determining the best interest of the child. It does include the right of a child to be heard, depending, of course, on their level of maturity. In these matters, it is required that the child should also be heard. So I do imagine that when it comes down to it, even that will be factored in.
Morning, Thulas. God gave us the brain for us to think and to reason. But I'm asking myself a question with this family that is refusing blood transfusion for the 15-year-old. Where in the Bible does it say, or when did God say blood transfusion is a sin? And I think we have a problem as African people of listening to people who come up with their own theories and make us not think for ourselves.
All right. Thank you for that. And thank you for listening, and thank you for your engagement. As always, we have to leave it there for the morning brief on this Wednesday. The Talking Point with Kethe Mutlahlana is up next after the news at 9 with N. Musa. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. You've been briefed.
In our top stories, 3 people shot and killed in Mitchell's Plain and a heatwave warning for the Western Cape. Good morning. 3 people have been shot dead in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. A teenager was also wounded in the shooting. Western Cape Police spokesperson Andre Trout says preliminary investigations suggest 3 masked men entered a house in Rocklands and opened fire before fleeing the scene.
The motive is suspected to be gang-related and forms part of the ongoing investigation. The anti-gang unit is investigating the case and no arrests have been made at this stage. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stop on 08600 10111 or use the MySAPS mobile application.
National Coloured Congress leader and MP Fadil Adams has accused the National Police Commissioner, General Fani Masimula, of lying under oath during his testimony before Parliament's ad hoc committee probing criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the criminal justice system. Adams told MPs the Crime Intelligence Head, Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo's first security clearance was not properly verified. He questioned the accuracy of information presented by Masimula to the committee. The allegations have underscored ongoing concerns about oversight, accountability and transparency within the police service.
Sitting on the portfolio of police, you say that you asked for a list of generals not having security clearance from the National Commissioner, General Masimula.
Yes, Chief.
Did the National Commissioner ever supply that list to date?
In the minutes of the meeting, it is promised that they'll bring that list to the next meeting. They never did.
Is it your testimony that the National Commissioner, Masimula, lied under oath that General Khumalo's clearance was above board?
It is my testimony that General Khumalo's first security clearance was fraudulent. It is my testimony that the NASCOM lied under oath.
Mpumalanga police have arrested 34 suspects during intelligence-driven operations in the Pilgrims Rest, Sabi and Graskop areas. The suspects are facing various charges including illegal immigration, illegal mining, possession of an unlicensed firearm with ammunition and assaulting a police officer. Equipment used in illegal mining activities were also recovered during these operations. The suspects are expected to appear in various magistrates' courts soon. Police are working with officials from the Department of Home Affairs to determine the status of the arrested suspects. The South African Weather Service has issued a heat advisory for several parts of the Western Cape this week. With temperatures already soaring across the province, authorities have warned extreme heat could impact vulnerable groups, including children, the elderly and pets.